Yeah, I'm naked too. Look at that shit.
I know what you mean, but like I got that big fro. Hold on, let me. I'm not sure if you remember what I look like, but yeah, I got that. If I shave that off, man, it doesn't go well.
Oh no, come on! You just lost a few inches. That's all.
I grew. This is like the third time I've grew my hair out, and every time I cut it, it was to get a fucking corporate job. And
Is that what you
oh my
got?
god,
Did
yeah,
you,
I felt like the old story from the Bible with Samson and whatnot. I always felt like I lost my power when I cut my hair.
nice. And do you feel that way now? You think you lost the power
I feel like I'm getting it back. Like,
when you grow it out? You getting it back, or when you cut it, you getting it back? Or you? So you think
oh,
you got?
when I grow it out, I get it back.
All right. So you did lose some power, like Samson, then, huh?
Yeah, it was weird because it was like I didn't even realize that by having my hair short, it was like it was my choice to originally grow my hair out. So then when I cut it, I didn't realize like I limited my choice.
You feel? I used to have hair that when I combed it, I'd get out of the shower and I'd comb it, and it would touch my ass. That long.
That's awesome. Like see, there's a difference in our hair, but like that difference is cool. Like I always have been able to appreciate the contrast. I've always wondered what it'd be like to have long hair. But people that have long hair, like long straight hair, or I'm not sure if your hair is curly. Well, it had to be straight. But people always wonder that. Like one of the first things they want to do, like, can I touch your hair? I'm like, that's if you get to know me, yeah, it's fine. Like,
No, mine was. I have a similar experience to you because once my hair dried out, it didn't go too far past my shoulders. If I just let it do its thing, it would hang right about my shoulders in long golden curls. I
nice,
didn't even
nice.
curl it. I didn't do anything to it. It hang in really Barbie-like curls, and so it didn't go past my shoulders. But it was this big mess. It's like in Mendham. You seen him?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gary. It's a lot like his, but I was 20 years old and handsome, so it got me laid. I was going to
Back in the
ask,
day.
what do you think? Women think that for men, having a lot of hair is a thing, eh? I mean, it's an alpha male thing, or
You know what? Actually, it is. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Actually, I had never really looked at it that way. Kind of like the lion's mane.
something like that. Something like
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah. And
I can see that. I can see that playing out for human. It was a friend of mine. He's got a theory that humans been fucking around on the planet for a while. It's like they wondered if like we kind of affected other species in a roundabout way, like specifically like ones in Africa. Like is that like go back like 50,000 years ago, were like humans like fucking like domestically kind of cultivating lions in a roundabout way too, because they're pretty fucking smart. Like I can imagine us like having a pretty good relationship with them until we started like hunting them for fucking just sport. They were like, "What the fuck happened?" It was like a breakdown in like relationship. They're like, "Just turned into assholes one day."
that's interesting. That's interesting, but your thought caused me a brain fart where I just realized that if we won't let species die out now, we are going to sort of keep a zoo where lions are like our special pets.
Mm-hmm.
Lions are actually a temporary thing. They were supposed to be gone soon, and who knows what was going to take their place. But we're
Yep.
not going to let. They're going to have to stay now. We're going to keep them there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all species go. Every species goes,
Yep. Yep.
and we're
Or it
stopping
changes,
that.
or like it either goes by either going extinct, or it goes because it just changes so much. It's just not what it is. But there are some organisms that have like they've changed so very little. It's like amazing. Like
Cockroaches.
yeah, insects are like some of those things like that, and that like specifically what are the opie lions? But they're more commonly known as like granddaddy longlegs. They've found like old ass like going back like five or like a little bit longer than that. Like I want to say like 200 million years. But don't hold me to that. But yeah, those fuckers are old, which means they got a pretty good I mean, they just eat all decayed material, but they hunt too. They're predators too, so it's like they'll definitely snack on something and then get a hands on it. But they're omnivores, so that seems to be a pretty advantage. Like that seems to be a pretty good advantage of being able to consume both, plant material and fleshy material.
Yeah, they've got a stable place. Wasps are like that.
Yes. Specifically, like I found out it's ants were kind of like they branched away from wasp, they just started being more terrestrial based as opposed to being like airborne. But ants seem pretty successful too as a species. Like I wouldn't be surprised if ants were the ones that actually end up being the next like dominant species on the planet.
No. I think that humans are. It's only up from here. Well, even if we
Sure.
have large nuclear war, it's only up from here.
Yeah, who knows what the hell will be. Actually, you'd be somebody interested to talk about with this. A friend of mine was talking about, like, so imagine we perfected the ability to, like, cryostasis somebody. That would effectively, like, enhance our lifespan as a species, like, dramatically, because we could travel in space, like, send people on longer voyages than they normally would be able to go then. So everybody would be kind of, like, living in this weird new generational dynamic where you might be asleep for 30,000 years and then wake up and be like, all right, well, who else is still alive? You know, who else is still floating around in space? But, you know, if we have this whole network of communications, we can still be pretty plugged into each other. So that's pretty interesting. And then you kind of open it as well. Are there other species out there that are aliens that are already doing that?
Well, okay. Now let's just assume the Big Bang's true. We might be pretty early in the
For
universe.
sure.
So, you know, we're looking around saying, where is everybody? We might be one of the early things, you know.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea, because actually when you look at it that way, there's a lot more time to play out in the universe considering what's just played out.
Yeah. So if we were to wake up when the universe is 50 billion years old and look around and not see anybody, that might be quite strange.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at that. It's a very good way to look at it.
And what is that's going to be 35 billion years, 37 billion years from now.
Whew, that's such a hard time for our human brains to really fucking play around, because Earth's gone. Like fucking like our sun has done its thing, and our solar system Earth's done. There's some shit going on with our galaxy that's gonna be like way different then too. So
it's going to be colder, much colder then. You know that. That the universe has cooled off by 50% in the last 6 billion years or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting, like looking at the universe from what we can test here about physics on all different scales, and what we see going on in the universe too, because like that whole cooling off thing, it's like, you know, that kind of fits in with the Big Bang, you know, idea that this is basically it's an explosion that's still technically happening.
Yeah.
But once it's over, that's it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how we kind of plug this, you know, equation in. Because, I mean, there's so much we just don't, because we've just gotten here with this body of knowledge. So we're really experimenting and playing around with what we know right now. And there's a lot of nuance to discovery. You know, Gary in Puro's Hangout, there was something I wanted to tell him. He actually reminds me of, like, from all of my historical readings about Isaac Newton and reading his stuff, Gary actually kind of reminds me of he's got kind of the same mindset that Isaac Newton had. And I think that's what allows him to keep pushing forward with this. He's got a serious pursuit for knowledge, and that is all fine and dandy, but that kind of comes with a little bit of, like, you don't have a lot of time for happiness. Like you're just driving through. So there's you can make that argument that it's, you know, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? It's everybody's choice at the end of the day. But you know, like you look at Tesla too. He kind of had those same characteristics. He was kind of plugged into something else, but he wasn't plugged into humanity. And that's, like I said, I really don't think that's necessarily a good thing considering the way humans treat each other on a regular basis.
A good thing for who? You say it's not a good thing. It's okay. It's a good thing for Tesla.
No, I said I don't think it's not. Sorry, I did a double negative. I actually do. I think there's nothing wrong with somebody being unplugged from humanity, especially considering the way society is set up right now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna
see that as reasonable. Yeah. Sorry.
I was gonna sort of agree with you and then give you an agreement at the edge, because what I was gonna say at the edge was, Tesla can do his thing and be his way, and the rest of us can do our thing.
Yep.
And he can give us his thing Now, at the end of the day, look at the fact that he did go to the grocery store and he bought, I don't know, potatoes and bananas and shoes and a vest and oil for his lamp,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and paper and ink and a pen
Mm-hmm.
and a tie and
Mhm.
presents for his nephews. So he got things from other people too.
This is true. This is true. This is,
So
you know, I got a good way to the way I've been looking at it for like this for like a couple years. Like everything that I use on a regular basis, I didn't invent. So I damn sure better be grateful to the or I better respect the history of like how we got to where we're at. Because if I was just to, if everything was, if I was put on me on a desert island, I would pretty much be just limited by the tools I'd be able to make there. Um, and that's a sobering thought. And I think more people should have that thought because it kind of it could lead to an existential crisis if you hold off too long on having that thought.
and it's nice to think about where you would be by yourself on a desert island and what you could do by yourself. How much does it matter to have other people? Do you care about
That's
it?
why I like Nietzsche. That's why I like Nietzsche. That's why when I found his writings and stuff like that, it was really good. It was really good what he did with his life.
What he
It was
did with
real.
his life? Died of syphilis? You mean that part?
Well, no, that's not the ending. Especially if you look at it from like the Japanese standpoint, where it's like the you know, the beautiful death thing. You know, it's all about the death at the end. Like, you know, you got to have that last note. You know, it's like if Beethoven's like last symphony had just ended with him shitting on himself, he might not have been as revered. Like, but yeah, the like he definitely. I don't think society was ready for where he wanted to take it, and syphilis was. It's a shitty thing because, like I said, it affects the brain. So
It does, and he was slightly crazy in his, but
towards the end.
we do have to read his stuff. Even at the end, we have
Yes.
to read his stuff with a
Yes.
mind of, did he offer something in between the crazy? Which parts are crazy? We have to sort it out. We
Mhm.
can't just dismiss it.
Yep, that's why I enjoyed your breakdown of his stuff earlier because that's what that's all you can really do with people that aren't here anymore. We can't talk to them like, what do you mean by this? You know.
Yeah, and we don't know what he means by it, but we can talk about it amongst ourselves and get. That's what he would want anyway.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. That's I think he'd be really pleasantly surprised with where we're at in society, even though we got a lot of shit to fix. Because I actually feel like people are starting to move towards, like, they want to get away from this stupid vanity and fakeness that is like mostly the modern world.
The
That's how I feel
Barbie world. These Barbie, this shopping mall plastic.
Yes, the Barbie world. Yes, that's a great way to put it.
It's unreal. And what if we fight the Muslims and we win and it's all uphill from here and we fight communism and China falls and China becomes like America and the Middle East becomes like America, so women are free, people can do what they want. So what's that going to look like? There's going to be pornography and shopping malls all around this world, and McDonald's is everywhere. Now, is that what we're fighting for? Now, I don't know. I think
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And
I don't know. It looks like that's what we're fighting for.
Yeah.
What else are we fighting?
Like that's what a lot of, well, I guess what I would call them the establishment are fighting for. Because they think that, as soon as we just get rid of this, we can just go back to business as normal. It's like, whoa, hold up. Like, what was business as normal? That was extorting the fuck out of, like, sweatshops and stuff. Like, like.
Well, that's what. That's where I assume you live in the United States. You live in California, is that right?
No, I'm in North Cat. I'm in North Carolina, man.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Charlotte?
That's fine. No, I'm not in Charlotte. I'm in the Piedmont region.
All
right. Charlotte's not too far away from me.
All right.
But, the town I live in, it's funny. It's a municipality, and you'd probably be a good person to talk to about this. Like, about how, like, municipality laws, how weird those can be.
You're not incorporated then.
Yeah, so our town does stuff like really different than like there's like almost no federal like oversight.
Right
on. Yeah, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because
Yeah,
Like,
it
there's
is.
a lot of fucking rich people that are just holed up here and not like pay. Like, they don't like, why are the roads going to shit? It's because you guys motherfuckers don't pay taxes. Like, it's like I'm not saying you don't have to fucking pay. I'm not saying you have to pay a fucking fortune in taxes, but like, you motherfuckers is getting off. Like,
Well, be careful. Be careful what you wish for, because I mean, you could move to an incorporated area. So
oh yeah, I've lived in. I haven't lived in North Carolina my whole life. When I was 18, I moved. I went to college, and I was down. I failed out of college, so that was fun. But I was there for 3 years, and I didn't fail out of college. I just decided to. I was like, okay. I looked at it like this. I was like, I'm $8,000 in debt, which was a lot better than some of my other friends that went to more, lavish universities such as like Duke and places like that. They were coming out like they were 3 years in with like $30,000 in debt. I'm like, oh man, it's like 2006 and stuff, or like 2009. So I'm like, man, let me just cut my losses, because I'm not really getting anywhere with this, because it wasn't a very productive environment. Even the professors would be quick to admit that. So I cut my losses, and I was like, well, you know what? I can get an education on my own. I can just go out there and start working, and the internet's out there, so I'll just use that. And that's where I've been at ever since then. That was quite some time ago. But I moved out to California for 3 to 4 months because a friend of mine needed some help moving out there, and I moved around North Carolina for a little bit, and eventually I just came back to where my roots were from, because I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, but my family kind of saw the epidemic going on with, they saw the rise of cocaine and crack, because I was born in '87. So they got the hell out of there and moved to Virginia. And we kind of fell on some hard times there. And we moved to down here to North Carolina. And we just started staying with family. And that's when I got in touch with my family. Like, when I was in Roanoke, Virginia, I was like, the only other dark-skinned kid in my school was my sister. So, like, there was no race. Like, racism was just not a thing that I was even aware of or really even conscious of until I got to about, like, high school. Because I remember one day I sat down at a table with a bunch of people that I thought were my friends. And I knew them from the wrestling team and things like that. And one of them, like, he looked at me and another friend of mine that was sitting there, darker skinned than me, and he was like, why do you guys sit over here? And we're like, what are you talking about? And then, like, his eyes scanned the room, and he saw the same thing that we saw too. But it's just, to me and my friend, we didn't look at the cafeteria that way. But we look around and, like, the cafeteria is all segregated. The blacks are sitting over there. The Hispanics are sitting over there. The very few Hispanics that were there at that point in time in our town, and the white kids were sitting over there. But these two black kids, were sitting over here with this table of white kids, and apparently that wasn't comfortable. That wasn't cool with some of the other kids, because they felt like they couldn't say what they wanted to say. So long story short, me and my friend, eventually there was a table that started forming that was of people of all different races. And we usually just sat out of the view sight of all the other kids. But yeah,
the open-minded crowd, huh?
Yeah, a lot of those kids are no longer here, oddly enough. I think maybe trying to live in such a fucking violent society and try and being peaceful is really stressful, man. So yeah, a lot of those kids, I know at least 5 of those kids that sat at that table are deceased now. Actually, sorry, more than that. It's 7. 3 of them didn't even make it out of high school. 2 of them opioid use, and then 1 suicide. Sorry, no, 2 suicides. And that's like one of the things that is still kind of going on in this little small town community right here is, like, young people, because they don't have like a lot of access to the outside world, they get really depressed, and it doesn't go well. Education will fix that, because I had my parents, they made sure that we had the opportunity to see stuff and experience things and learn. So I never got too really bummed out about being here, because I was like, I can always leave. And I did when I got the first chance. I did. But for a lot of kids, their minds just couldn't get to that point yet. They were still, the thing of 16-year-old kids dying of opioid use is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I know it happens.
Not only that, but the suicide too. They die of suicide, and that's a real thing that it's created by. It's created by our society, and not that it would disappear, but we exacerbate it. We definitely exacerbate.
That's entirely it. You hit the nail right on the head.
We have certain things we can do about it, and one of the things we're doing right now is having corporations manufacture it in large amounts and having uh, insurance companies pay for its distribution. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about that situation, but you know that industry right there wrecked my sister's metabolism.
well,
She was,
I might not make you feel better then, because I think she should have been able to buy it legally in 7-Eleven, but she was probably getting it for free through some insurance thing.
Oh
Or she was,
yeah, and that was the thing. It was she had options, but because of what had happened, she didn't. I mean, she was in no mental decision to decide which drug she was going to take. So it was basically the doctor guiding my parents to, okay, well, let's put her on this one. But here are the side effects, right? Well, that one's not working. Let's put her on this one. Because what happened to her was she was a perfectly normal kid until she got kidnapped in her senior year in high school, and there you go, kidnapped, and then we got her back a couple weeks later, and she just wasn't the same person because that's. But anyways, so she's better. She's better now. Like she's way better now because there's just been that much more time for the wounds to heal. But I don't think the medication really helped with that. I think the medication really just like for a couple of years it just retarded her, so she couldn't function properly. And then it like caused her cholesterol to just it caused her metabolism not to be able to process cholesterol. So she blew like up in weight, and then she became self-conscious, and you know what I mean. So it's like, oh, what the fuck are we doing here in America? Like, we can't just throw pills and money at shit, expect it to fix it.
no,
And
that's
I agree
not,
with you. Like, a completely open market would allow for, there would have been other people that be like, oh, you don't have to take that. You can take something else. And one of those something else is nothing. Like,
yeah. The doctor's job is not to make the patient better. It's to take government allowed stuff and funnel it into the patient through government allowed channels.
mm-hmm.
And they are government. The doctors now are government units. They're
Yep.
trained by the government. They believe in the government. They follow the government. They don't take exception to the government. They are government units, and they
Yeah.
do what the government says, and they help the government all the way.
I give a lot of blame to the lobbyists because that industry has just become so acceptable now in America. And the blame doesn't lie solely on them. Most of the blame really just falls on the fucking lawmakers and the people that just don't have enough common sense to do the right thing when they get caught up in one of those bureaucracy situations. Because when our little boy was born here recently, we had like so many doctors coming in telling us contradictory things. Like, it's like I'm looking at my wife and I'm going like, do they fucking talk to each other? Because I mean, I went to college, I had sat in medical classes, and I sat next to medical students, and yeah, some of them are fucking dumb as rocks. Like,
Some of them what?
I sat in I was in college and I took medical classes and I sat next to medical students, and some of them are dumb as rocks. Like
Dumb
I
as
realized
rock.
that like yeah, I realized like graduating college is not so much about how smart you is. It's how smart you is. Yeah, that's fun. That's a good way to say that. As smart as you are, or how much damage you can take, just how much abuse you can go through.
Now, hey, do you get shit for talking white?
That's actually I do. It's one of those things where like I'll be on the phone with somebody, and then like they'll just for whatever reason find out I'm black or just I have dark skin because I don't even like referring to myself as black. I like referring to myself as human. But they'll find out my skin's dark. Oh, you speak well for an African American or just a black person. I'm like, that's a very fucking patronizing thing to say.
It is, but it's because of all of your brothers that speak that way. You know what? I mean, they don't have to. Why do they talk like that?
Actually, some of them, the only reason some of them talk that way is because they just, like, so when I was 14, I talked, like, a lot different than I did now. Like, the southernness, this like, what I just said ago, about like, you is smart, that's that southern shit wearing off on me because I've been here long enough.
Yeah.
And it's not that like, and that's what I had to learn for myself. Actually, I had to put my arrogance aside like many years ago when it was coming to the terms with like, okay, when I'm talking to somebody, they might have a totally different set of vocabulary and dialect that they use, and the way I'm coming off might be as a pretentious asshole. So I shouldn't try to dumb down how I'm speaking, but I should learn how to communicate in their language, like by just learning, just so I started making a conscious effort to spend time around people that I, might not have normally spent like hanging around. You know what I mean? Well, actually, that's kind of a hard thing to describe. Like, it's just, I try to be a naturally friendly person, but there was a point when I was about 23. This was before I moved out to California, where I realized that a lot of my friends that I just had them because they had been my friends for a long time. That I didn't actually agree with them, and a lot of them I didn't even enjoy their company. So, I had to do some soul searching, and one of those soul searches was like a friend of mine that I had recently become friends about 2 years ago. He came from a totally different background. He grew up in Massachusetts. His parents were like really hooked on drugs, and he was kind of a bully, but he couldn't bully me because I never really like perceived it as bullying. I just perceived it as like him jeering at the ribs. So I would just talk to him and treat him like anybody else. And we grew to like each other, and we
You
shared a lot
saw
of
through.
experience.
You saw through his stuff, and he knew you saw through it.
I guess that's kind of what, because like me and him had like a couple arguments, but we always came back and became friends. Like, that was one of the reasons I moved away from this town I'm in now and went to Asheville, was because me and him we were living together, we were renting a house together, and he got upset with me one day, and I knew he wasn't actually upset at me. He was upset about something else. So, but he threatened me. And, it was one of those things where it was like, I know he probably didn't really mean, like, the second he said it, the second the words came out of his mouth, he realized he kind of fucked up because he saw my body language shifted too. Like, not that I was going to pounce on him and be like, oh, you fucking threatened me, type of shit, but, like, he saw I was hurt. And, I told him, like, not too long after that, I was like, I'm moving out, man. I'm going to go somewhere. I got some friends, they want me to come. They got an apartment up there, check it out. So I moved, and a couple months later, right, he called me. I mean, he kept up. He wouldn't let the relationship die out. Like, he called me a couple weeks later, and he was like, hey, how you doing up there? Just checking in on you and stuff like that. And he was the friend I actually helped. He needed help moving back out to California, and it's one of those things where I don't know. I don't even know where he's at right now because. He stayed out in California. I made a choice to come back to North Carolina. He decided to stay out there. And, stuff over the next 2.5 years just got worse for him. And I won't go into too many details about it, but, like, he was really trying to put his family back together, starting with the relationship between his ex-girlfriend and his daughter. And methamphetamines got in the way. And on top of that, like, over the last year, I was talking to him. They were describing the water situation in California. They were saying it was getting really dire out there. Like, the grocery stores were getting water in, but they weren't getting enough water in. So, like, people that had money would just buy up as much as they could, and by the time people that, just were trying to get one case, a couple bottles, there was just nothing left for them. So, the people that had the money to actually change and, like, get people's attention, or not necessarily money, but they had influence to actually bring attention, bring cameras from, like, we're talking about Flint, Michigan, but there's people that are, really hurting out there in California too. But there's no media attention because the people out there that can get it, they can get it, and the people that don't just don't get it, and they I mean, when somebody's thirsty, they're not gonna be like, oh, we gotta bring political attention. They're like, I need some fucking water. So, yeah, I miss Steve. He's a good guy. He's made mistakes. I've made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but compassion can help people in really way. Like, I know if I didn't have people looking out for me and taking care of me and guiding me through life, who the fuck knows where I'd be at? Like, I would have probably made so many more fucking terrible decisions, and I'd really only have myself to blame because. Well, I mean, yeah, because I don't like that whole, well, society made me this way type of thing, because, I mean, how do you feel about that? That's actually an interesting way to take the conversation.
Yeah, I was going to sort of ask that towards you because we were talking, from what you were saying earlier, I asked if you live in America. I said, I assume you live in America. It sort of doesn't matter how bad you and I screw up our life. We've got this sort of background society where we can get some shitty apartment that's not very nice, but it's down the street from a police station or something. I mean, we don't live in total chaos. even in California, if you have an apartment where it's hard for you to get clean drinking water, that's apparently the worst situation in America. I really can't believe that. That's really out of control. What are they
Yeah.
doing? They live by an ocean and they have no water. That's socialist. That's
it's the people
social.
on the other side of the it's the people on the other side of the Sierra Nevada that are fucked. It's the people on the Los Angeles side. They're fine because most of the water they get comes from the basins that
Yeah,
would normally be going to fucking so yeah, you're right. It's kind of like it's this social engineered socialism where we're gonna make sure all these people have shit, but it's like these other people over here, nah, well, fuck it. You know, they chose to live in the desert. It's like, but that place wasn't a desert 120 years ago. Like, it was plains. Which a lot of the whole Midwest was.
Yeah, well, what are they going to do? I mean, they've got 40 million people there. They better figure something out. And right now, they're letting the rivers run out into the ocean so they can preserve the life of certain types of fish, and humans have nothing to drink. So I don't know where it's going to go, but either they're going to reduce the population or kill the fucking fish.
About to say, start setting up those desalination plants left and right.
Yeah.
I'll fucking move out to California to help build that shit. But if they gotta do it. You know?
Well, they have to have electricity, and for that
That's
they
true.
have to have either oil or nuclear power, and they're against oil and they're
cool
against
with,
nuclear power.
I'm cool with people building more nuclear facilities. The problem with nuclear facilities is like a lot of the ones we have are kind of fucking old. So build some new ones so we can get rid of these old ones, shut them down, or at least like start fixing them.
Build new ones.
Yeah, I agree with you. They just build, you know, that's what we do as a society anyway. You know, why would we build a fucking stone wheel unless you're, you know, like just want to do it for aesthetic purposes?
Yeah, exactly. We got these old wagon wheels. Let's fix them up. And I say, no, let's have some good years now.
Yeah, something with some traction.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some durability.
Time to upgrade.
Yeah.
But you and I are pretty lucky. We're in a good society that is pretty rough, but it's, you know, I'm poor. I hope you don't think I'm part of the upper class, but I don't care.
No. I know you one of the brothers, man. I know you one of the brothers.
But we're way better off than anybody else outside. Even the upper class. Think of the upper class in France right now. What's the upper class in France going to do if the whole society descends into chaos? What's their mansion going to be worth? How much can they sell their mansion?
It's so densely populated in France, where compared to the U.S., like compared to like the space wise. And I think like to add to your point, I think part of the reason that we have that dichotomy in America, because like really, I some people might not get what you're saying with that, but I get what you're saying with that, because it's like what it is like in America, you may not have anything, but you do have the opportunity of freedom, where there's like nobody directly oppressing you. Like if somebody's oppressing you, that's technically against the law, so you can find justice if you're willing to seek it out. Now, I think part of the reason there's so much concentrated wealth here in America and Britain, because we're such close allies, that, you know, the wealthy here, they're gonna want to keep things to a certain degree as peaceful as possible. However, if they're not making sound judgments, then, you know, we saw what happened in France during the fucking French Revolution and shit. So you know, so if they don't do a good job, like I don't have no problem with them being the leaders of society, but if they're gonna take that role and they're gonna do a terrible job, they're gonna have to accept what fucking happens once you collapse society. Like, you know, like the rich people are gonna be the ones that people are coming from because they don't have any water or food, you know, or resources. So you know, I hope the rich people in America do understand that. So I think that's part of the reason why we have such but we also have a deep network of infrastructure, because like for the last 300 years, our country's pretty much just been building infrastructure. And a lot of it's good infrastructure, because like once we build something, we just generally maintain it. And, you know, we can talk about the plight of what happened to the Native Americans. My theory is that if the Europeans weren't going to be if it wasn't the English, then the Americans that ended up exploiting them, it would have been, I mean, other people were clearly exploiting the Native Americans. It wasn't just the fucking Americans and the English. So, you know, what it was is it was globalization. You know, they had this group of people that had been on this continent pretty much isolated from the rest of the world, and they had their own philosophy. And, like, even Africans were still part of the old world. in that regard. Like, you could still walk from Africa to Europe. It would take you a while, but you could still do it. So the diseases didn't that we brought over to the Native Americans like really fucked them up too, and then like the food and shit too. Like even when we tried to work out with them, if they ate like cheese or something, that like fucking like wrecked their shit. Like so there was like a whole lot of fucking cultural misunderstandings and fucking accidents, and then fucking wounded knee and all this other fucking terrible shit. So like they didn't die. What they were assimilated into our culture, basically. You know, like, I think that's part of the reason Americans are the way they are is because, like, a lot of Americans, and this comes from, I read a couple months ago, 12 Years a Slave. It's a really good look at that time period, like, between like, because there's a little bit of Native American relations in there, there's a little bit of African American relationships in there, and there's, like, a little bit of, like, European relationships in there, or, like, American colonists, or colonialism, like, experiences in there. And it blends together because, like, you know, Solomon Northup, he was born up in New York as a free guy, and he was kidnapped around the age of 30. So he was like right in his prime. So he got dragged down to Louisiana, and he just saw like a whole bunch of like crazy. Like he was just like, he's like he knew slavery was bad, but he was like, I didn't know it was this fucking bad. Like because he had always seen like because they would carry slaves up into the north, and they'd still be held in bondage, and they'd be like blinking in Morse code, like free me and shit. Like he even mentioned that he talked to slaves like early on in the book that he had. Some of his early encounters, he had talked to them, and he'd like tried to talk to them about what it was like, and they were kind of reluctant to tell him. But then a couple of them were like, yeah, it's fucking horrible. But they would not go into the details about it because, like, I guess for fear that he would say something to their master or anything like that. So, like, he went down for like 12 fucking years, and like, he was at his breaking point, like, pretty much when he got free. Like, you know, he was like, there's nobody going to come for me. I'm fucking down here. You know, but that was America. Once America at that time realized what had happened to somebody, there was friends of his in New York that were still like, we got to go get him. And they used the legal system to do it. So it's really fucking, it's a really amazing book because if he had never got free, he would have never been able to write it. And I know it impacted me very, very deeply reading that book because there's such a very small window into that time period in America, especially like a non-political viewpoint from that one. Like, and that's what that book reads to me. It's pretty much just straight up firsthand accounts of, you know, from the day he got kidnapped to the day he got free. And after that, he spent the rest of his life, and no one knows where he died at either or how he died, but he immediately went back to, like, he went towards trying to basically help other people get their freedom. And I know it had nothing to do with race either, or like in terms of skin color, because there's a part in the book where he mentions that specifically women, like, so sometimes women would be born into just such a poor situation that they were just treated just as the same as niggers were, you know. And there was this one particular woman that she was born to black parents, but her skin was as white as anybody else's. And she came knocking on his door. He had never met her before, but she come knocking on his door one night because she'd heard him playing his fiddle. And he opened the door, and he almost thought it was like a mistress from one of the plantations that had been running away or just, you know, wandered off, and she'd wanted him to do something. Because that was a common thing. It was just like somebody knocking on your door in the middle of, hey, come, you know, cut some firewood for me. It's like, son of a bitch. Like, I just fell asleep. But, like, so she's like, he knocks on the door, and he opens it up, and he thinks she's a mistress at first, but he takes a second look at her clothes. He's like, no, she's wearing, like, slave clothes. You know, it's tethered. You know, it's ragged up and shit like that. She's got dust and shit all over her. So she immediately demands, she's like, give me some bacon and some fucking cornmeal. And he's like, all right, come on in. And she explains that she run away from the plantation, like the sugarcane plantation a couple of acres away. And she didn't really know what the fuck she was doing, but she just had to fucking get away because it was just getting to her. She had to be free. She had to be a human being. But she eventually ended up having to go back, and he doesn't know what the fuck happened to her. But that just kind of shows, like, the mentality of you know, humans. Like, we fucking want to be free. Like, we do. I think that's why this shit works here in America, is even though, you know, we might not be too happy with the setup, we are free to, like, protest and do things and stuff like that. And we have solidarity. But there's a lack of education and awareness to what the issues are, I think.
Yeah, I think definitely when we said that the government's responsible for our education, fewer and fewer people are able to read now. So,
yeah, at that time period, like when Solomon Northup wrote that book, you know, there was no federalized fucking education system. It was just you had the schools and the universities, and you know, They're like early education. There's actually a lot of people that are making this push for in this country, which I'm totally for, is that we just get rid of the whole, we don't start putting kids into school until they're about like middle school age and high school age. And at that point, it's whatever the fuck classes they want to take.
No, I'm against schools altogether. Just let the just parents. If parents think school's important, they can get together and start a school and start a company and run the company.
I agree with you, man, because here in North Carolina, we could not pull our kids out of school unless we had some way of proving that they had state-mandated education. And then that fucked up.
That's messed up. That's really bad. That's not the case in Connecticut or Utah.
Yeah, North Carolina, dude, North Carolina is one of those states that, like, if you don't know how the laws are fucked up, they would appear that it's always been this way. But no, there was a serious fucking shift. I remember when I was growing up, it wasn't a problem for kids to get homeschooled. But there was something that happened sometime after I graduated, where they got like super. I don't even know what word I would describe for it other than like. I mean, maybe you can come and help me come up with a word for like. I guess it's almost it's like they want an Orwellian state here.
Wow.
Like I thought last night I heard a fucking military truck vehicle going up and down our road. Because like I live on somewhat you could consider it an industrial road. I'm out in the middle of the country, so we have 18-wheelers that come up and down the road. So I hear those all the time. And every now and then we have like dump trucks and stuff like this. But I hadn't heard a vehicle like this since I lived in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And one thing, it goes back to something that my grandfather always told me. He's like, living in the big city, at least you can see the cops beating people up in the street lights. Out here in the country, you just got darkness. So, man, that's a sobering fight. I mean, because it's dark as fuck out here at night. Like, who the fuck knows what the fuck is rolling up and down these roads, snatching people up and shit.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's going to be a big problem in our country, but I think it might be a real problem real soon in other places.
Yeah. Man, I hope that type of shit isn't going on in America yet.
No, I think this is like the 1930s where we had the Great Depression and we have 20% of people out of work and 50% of blacks out of work and 70% of Mexicans out of work. Mm-hmm. But we made it through that, whereas Europe was in a situation also in the 1930s, and they really went through the meat grinder to get out the other side.
Oh, you know what? You made me think of something. So another reason why we're so lucky to live in this fucking country?
Why?
It's because like North Dakota isn't going to war with like Tennessee. Like Texas isn't trying to fucking like take over Georgia, like that's like like we look at the Europe and the UK and shit like that. They have fucking trouble getting along with their fucking neighbors, and it fucking defies reasoning to me why that is the fucking case, considering it's the 21st century.
They don't
like
have
how much smaller it is too. Like how small, you know what I mean? Like I look at America, I'm like, we don't give a fuck what they're doing in Texas. Like there is that level of tribalism, but not to that degree here in America.
Yeah, you're right. We got some basis of understanding that apparently they still lack in Europe.
When I drove down Interstate 40 from one side of the country to the other, it was like, it was kind of like a wake-up call because I was like, no matter where Americans are at, they're all fat and eating at McDonald's. like that was the one thing I know. Like, convenience stores, McDonald's, and fat people. Like just across the fucking the entire way I went. Like.
And it's a beautiful thing,
It was.
Other people come here and they're like, I can't believe how many stores there are that I can just go to and get whatever I want. And for a wonderful price. I've talked to people from around the world and they say that I talked to one guy who had gone to South Africa and he said people got off and on the public buses with M16s and nobody blinked an eye. He said, do not leave America. The rest of the world is shit.
Yeah, I haven't actually had the opportunity to leave America, and I don't even know where I would go if I had the opportunity to. If I had the opportunity to, I would definitely jump on it, but there is an issue with traveling now that did not exist about 15, 20 years ago, and that is there are super bugs that are popping up in places, so you never know if you're going to go somewhere, if you're going to pick up something that's going to really fuck you up in terms of like a disease.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to mention superbugs. You're right. It's a serious thing, and depending on where you go, you have to have your shots and immunizations and all your different things and stuff like that. But you have a separate issue that I wouldn't have. You may have heard about C.K. Lewis. He did some jokes about time machines.
No. But yeah, go down this road with me, because that's
Okay. So C.K. Lewis says, I'm a white guy. I get in my time machine. I go back to the year 2. I get out, and they say, oh, right over here, we have a table for you, sir. Please come on over. And he says, oh, this is lovely in the year 2. If you're black, you don't want to go any fucking where near a time machine. You don't care what year you pop out in. It's going to be worse than this decade. You can't go back 20 years. You can't go back 50. You can't go back 200. There's no time you want to visit where you're going to pop out of that time machine and be welcomed. There's a reason
we left Africa. Like, there's a reason humans left Africa. That motherfucker is wild. Like I was talking to somebody about the other day. I was like, we gave one of the most dangerous fucking animals in Africa one of the most ridiculous sounding names. Like, why the fuck would we do that? The hippopotamus. Like, why don't we name it like the fucking the death manatee, or the fucking like anything other than the hippopotamus? Because that's a deceiving name for something that like literally is like responsible for like the most deaths in Africa every year, other than humans.
Right. It chomps people in half. It tramples people.
It's like, oh, what's that thing? A hippopotamus? Don't you mean the worst, like a land demon, the worst thing ever? And part of the other reason they're so dangerous is they're smart. They know humans are a threat. They don't fuck around with us.
Well, they wouldn't have survived so well. I mean, the things they didn't know were a threat are dead.
That's true. That's true. That's why people got all offended at that alligator that snatched up that boy in Disney World, and it's like, come on, y'all, it's a fucking alligator, man. They're reptiles. Like, why would they show compassion towards one of our children? like, if anything, be mad at Disney World for not fucking like putting up perimeter fences. But then you could just get in the whole like Darwinism thing. It's like, well, people should just really take care of their kids. Like, that's really what that's about. Like,
it's true. It's pretty bad. I think that little beach going into the water was pretty seductive, though. It's like, here's a beach that goes into the water. Don't worry about that. Stay really far away from it because you could die if you stand on this beach. But there it is. It goes into the water and it looks cute. Just stay back.
That's a great point, actually. That's a great point. Because, yeah, people let their guard down,
Yeah, exactly. Let's have like a row of rocks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it is some kind of obstacle to at least slow the alligator down so he can't just sprint onto the bank. Like,
or to slow the kid down and give the kid second thought, because the kid's probably seen a beach. He knows what a beach is. So
that's true. This is very true. Yeah, we can't penalize the kid because the kid's a kid. I burned myself on a fucking oven when I was 4. It could have been much worse.
Arrest that kid and teach him something. He's done now, so.
Yeah, resurrect that kid and then arrest him.
Yeah, I don't know if the parents should be penalized or Disneyland, or probably neither. My real view is
neither. I think neither. I think the lesson was learned.
Yeah, I think that both of them. I think Disneyland is going to be more careful, and the parents have paid enough and don't need to be penalized any further. So
yeah, I think it'd be pretty unreasonable for people to Disney's got to, like if the parents want to seek retribution from Disney, that's what the law system's for.
Yeah.
We shouldn't, as citizens that are outside of this like personal affair, because that's really what it is. Like, I kind of hate the way the news does shit like that, where they just blow people's personal business up like that. Like, it's a tragedy. Let's report on it as such and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they both paid enough, and they can. And Disney is going to change. They're going to put more signs up and shit.
Put up signs that alligators exist.
Well,
they haven't gone extinct yet, guys.
It may be unreasonable, but they're definitely going to do it, whatever they do.
Because that's the sign I would put up. Like, I'm not going to put "Beware of alligator." That's self-evident. Like,
there are alligators. If they knew formal logic, you could put an existential sign "alligator" everywhere.
Yes. And just an arrow.
There's just
pointing in every
direction. Such a
direction.
thing as alligator. Now I think maybe it's crocodile. We probably sound like assholes because it's probably called crocodile. Is it crocodiles or alligators? I don't know the
I
difference.
believe it was an alligator that snatched the kid up.
All right.
It might have been a croc. I'm
right.
always bad about that too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they look so goddamn. So people are like, oh, you can't see the difference. I'm like, I haven't spent that much time trying to like, you know, I've only seen one gator in my whole life, like actually up close, and you know.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it was a gator because it could have just been a fucking crocodile. Like,
You got him in Carolinas, right? You got him up there.
yeah, it's gators. Yeah, it's gator. I think crocodiles are more flat, and like gators are more.
Alligator has the nose bump, and the crocodile doesn't have as much of a bump at the end of his nose. No, I don't know. I don't know shit. That's what
we both are not like good at taxonomy. At least not at this hour. Like,
it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Well, hey, I had this other room and it crashed because somebody turned the camera on after they'd been in there for 3 hours with no camera, and they turned it on and crashed my room.
I was listening. You had gentle chaos in there, and what was it? No, Mr. Finn.
Yeah, Super Finn guy and.
Yeah, Super Finn. Yeah. And I think Peter had come in right at the last second. I was hoping some of them would come back in, but I'm cool just talking with you and me too, bud.
Yeah, no, Peter came in and it crashed right after that, and so we kept talking for like an hour, and then after we talked for like an hour, I tried to start a new room, and it crashed the old room, and I suspect they're still talking. It went off air, so none of the stuff that we were talking about after Peter came in was recorded, so all of that went into the black hole of eternity, and there was some really good conversation.
Oh, heck yeah, dude, heck yeah. I was like, that's one of the best, yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, it was good. It's but that's what it takes, man. Because when everybody's on a good, respectable talking point, that's the best conversations right there.
Yeah.
I hate when stuff descends into like name calling and because I guess there's a time and place for that. Like
that shit's fun too. Come on, that's fun too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Totally is.
But like in
I usually have to be. What's up?
In Piro's rooms, you know.
Yeah, that seems to be the more. Although this last Sunday was like way more constructive than at least it's normal. I haven't been hanging out with Piro's channels for very long, really just a couple months. I just happened to stumble upon the live show, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, people do this, and I should participate from time to time. So he had it open, so I jumped in there and started getting to know everybody and stuff. And you know, like I say, I haven't met anybody in there that was too unreasonable or anything. You know, people are usually pretty adamant about their viewpoints and their perspectives, but I expect that out of them generally. But yeah, I am kind of like a race. Like when it comes to race, I'm pretty easy to trigger on race because like being here in North Carolina, I've experienced some things that are not too pleasant just because of the color of my skin. So it's a very urgent issue for me that we correct this prejudice in America, because it's not just like white against black. It's black against white. Like I had to disown one of my family members just last Thursday because of some stupid shit that he was going down a road that I was trying to tell him. I was like, that's a very destructive road and you're not going to get anywhere with it. And he wanted to kind of threaten me with physical violence, and I had to like inform him like that's just basically going to mean you're never going to see me again. Like, because I shouldn't have to tolerate the threat of physical violence in order to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, that's too bad that would go that way with the family member, but of course that does all the time. So.
Yep. I'm not gonna tolerate. Like I mean, I told him probably. I thought you'll probably never see me again. Like, you know, but you'll see me again, but you're not gonna. You know, you don't expect to just walk up, oh, hey, how you doing? Because it's going to be like, hey, are you still a racist? Okay. Because if the answer is yes, then we're, you know, which I know he's not going to do. He's going to be like, I'm not a racist. And I'm like, you just said fucking white people were the direct result of a fucking experiment that black people did to mix chimpanzees with fucking their own DNA to fucking make some kind of weird mutant race. Like, that's really fucked up shit to say, and there's no fucking scientific evidence to even support it. And the only reason you want to believe it is because it's a convenient argument for black supremacy. Like, so, fuck that shit. Like,
no, wait, you said that or he said that? Who said
that's his viewpoint. That's his fucking viewpoint. And
Wow.
I'm like, dude, that's like kind of the equivalent of what the KKK were saying about us 100 fucking years ago. So like, because because I'm like sitting there like in my internal head going like, why does he think he sounds so fucking smart right now? Like, because his entire structure of his argument was essentially just, oh, well, go read this book and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I keep telling him like, dude, I'm familiar with the book you're talking about. I came across it 3 years ago, and when I looked at it and looked into everything about it, I was like, this is a crock of shit. This is just some fucking black supremacy shit that they're hiding off. It's like actual scientific. Oh, it's a global conspiracy. Nobody wants to tell you about it. How many times do you hear that shit on a regular basis?
Now, what should we do, V? What you and I can see through that stuff like we can see through a window, you know?
I agree.
What do we do? Do we go out and write one of those and take these suckers to the cleaners and get money from them? Because you and I could start a cult tomorrow.
Yep.
Right? I would stand behind the stage and whisper things in your ear because I'd be watching the audience and stuff. You wouldn't be able to see the audience from my viewpoint, right? I'd walk back and forth and see what the people were doing. I'd whisper stuff in a microphone. You would freak them the fuck out, and we would have a religion. We would make $1 billion, wouldn't we?
Yeah, pretty quickly.
They're
Pretty
doing
fucking
it.
quickly.
Every religion that's alive is doing that.
That's why I'm like I say I'm agnostic, but I'm definitely like you have to have some serious groundbreaking evidence for me to go like, oh, well, that's God. Okay, yeah.
Now, we
I
don't
mean,
need
like,
that. We know there's no God. What you've got the dreadlocks.
mm-hmm.
Look at my head.
No,
I look like a cop.
only agnostic in the sense that like
Look at me. I got a cop. Look at me. I'm a cop, right? I look like a cop, right?
yeah, sort of. Most of the ones I know keep it shorter than that. This is
Shorter than that. That's
yeah.
all right. All right. I'll shave a little bit.
North Carolina now. They're competing with racists and other. You know, they got Louisiana and Georgia and shit to compete with.
So I go virtual skinhead. I walk around in the audience with the microphone on. I talk into the microphone once in a while. They don't know any better. They think I'm security. I'm telling you to call up this lady to the stage because she's got her ankle hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm walking past her, I could see her ankle hurting. You call her up there. You heal her ankle. I don't know. This is good. We could work with this.
Yeah, no, we could totally. I mean, because especially in America, it'd be so freaking easy because, like, okay, I grew up Southern Baptist, and I was atheist for a long time, and then I just became agnostic because I was like, I really don't fucking know, but I don't really care to know either way. Like, I don't have to have a definitive answer either way because, like, either I die and some shit happens after I die, or I just stop existing, and then my energy is just distributed somewhere else. So either if I die and I'm standing before God and He's like, oh, you're gonna have to go to hell, I'm like, you should give me better warnings. And He's like, well, I did. I'm like, well, you know me, God. You should have known what would have fucking worked on me.
No, there's no God. There's no God. So why don't we take some?
I agree. I agree. There is no, like, as for me right now, there is no God. Like I say, like somebody would have to give me some fucking phenomenal, fucking just absolutely like, we found this picture of just a middle finger in like a galaxy pointed directly towards Earth.
A great giant floating birdie finger fucking us off.
It's like that might do it for me. But oh,
that's brilliant. Then we know
starting a cult is really fucking like the Westboro Baptist people. Like that's why people have so much trouble understand why do they hate gays so much. It's because when we start demagoguing people, it's so much easier to get the donations rolling in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. How about that book that you said you read of this guy, this idiot book? You could write something like that in a weekend.
Yeah, actually, I'm a writer too, so
let's say we throw together some nonsense book and I walk around in the audience and radio things to you to say about the people in the audience, and you're up there on the stage finding out stuff through your mind, through ESP about the people in the audience.
Wow. The only way I'd be willing to do something like that, is when we do it for like a whole year, and then we gotta like pull the curtain out and be like, by the way, you guys are all fucking idiots. None of this shit's been true. We've just been fucking with you the whole time. This motherfucker's been walking around with a microphone, and I've been doing the same thing. We'd be like, look, we got it on camera too, like.
All right. Give me 2 years, 2 years of the nonsense, selling a book, because we'll have the book. We'll sell the book while we're doing it, Then at the end of the 2 years, we pull the curtain and we write another book about how fucking stupid people are.
Okay. So the only problem is that we're going to now have to go break into the YouTube servers and destroy this video evidence of what we just said.
Not a problem. This is not actually not a problem. You know, do you know Penn and Teller? You probably know about Penn and Teller.
Yeah. I'm familiar with. They've been around. They've been synonymous with my life. I mean, it's always been around ever since I was a kid. So.
Yeah, and you know, Randy. Oh hell, he did the $1 million challenge. If you could prove something paranormal, you get a check for $1 million.
Yeah. I did hear about him because did he partner up with like Ripley's or something like that?
Yeah. Oh, so you've heard of him? Yeah, he's the guy. Look, he got a fake to go on TV in Australia, and they had a nurse sat next to him, and they had a rubber ball tucked under his arm. So when he squoze the rubber ball, it would cut off the circulation to his arm, and it would cut off his pulse for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
And so he could stop his pulse at will by tightening that rubber ball in his armpit. And so the nurse, they said to the nurse on live TV, if he stops his pulse right now, would that be proof? And she said he can't stop his pulse. So he did. He stopped his pulse on live TV, and she saw it, and she was astonished, and blah, blah, blah.
People do this shit for thousands of years, too.
Yeah, exactly. But this went on for months. They kept doing this shit all over Australia on TV for months. And then Randy did this whole show where he said this is all, and he just brought out on the stage, did every one of the tricks they had done all during that time and showed them how he'd done all of them. And guess what? They kept getting calls saying, don't worry, we believe in you, Guri. We believe that you're true. We believe you have the powers.
Yep, that because I forget who sold it to me, but somebody gave me this bit of wisdom. People are willing to believe a lie instead of that they were misled. Because, like, to be misled, you have to be ignorant. Like,
yeah.
And I guess, like, what it is like, you know, when I woke up from religion, I realized that I was being misled. That, like, you know, my parents had good intentions by raising us in the church, but they didn't realize this is an indoctrination principle. Like, to a kid, they don't want to fucking sit around thinking about, like, oh, I had a naughty thought, so I'm going to go to hell. A naughty thought is like a naughty thought, like, in terms of, like, a pervy thought. You know, like, that's not something, like, they're going through fucking hormones. Like, that was the worst fucking shit ever, man, being in church going, I have a boner, Jesus hates me.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't work.
Or so, like a Catholic, you can never take a shower without feeling like you're sinning, and because you're naked.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Feels so bad.
I think Catholics feel a lot of shame about a lot of things. They're like, that's why Catholics are pretty quiet. They're like, we fucked up shit for a long time. Let's just chill. Let's chill.
Yeah, they messed up. They gave us some pretty pervy girls to deal with too.
And
the Muslims are doing it.
I'm about to say another thing about Spain and kind of Spain and Catholicism. Like, the reason you don't hear too much out of Spain, like, military-wise, is because they fought, like, a perpetual war for, like, 100 years with, like, almost everybody that they were bordered with. And it, like, decimated their fucking economy for, like, till, like, now, today. They're still fucked up because of it, like... So, like, I think America should be like, hey, guys, we probably should, like, we can fight stuff, but we shouldn't be kind of in perpetual warfare, though. We gotta have a cool down period where we, like, you know, assess things and actually, you know, build up our infrastructure here too.
Okay, well, now, but how long? Okay, so Spain sent Columbus. That was 1492.
Yeah. Yep.
So they've had a long stretch of being productive there. They're on the world stage.
That 100-year war, though, that they fought with England and France and all those people, that's what fucked them over. That's what killed, like, that's what ended all that shit. Like,
that's like the understatement of the millennium. That 100-year war was rough on them.
They were looking back going like, God damn, we just kept sending ships. We could have stopped at any time. Like, we were just way over responding to threats. Like, just trying to, like, can you imagine, like, a country back then, trying to fucking police the Atlantic Ocean, let alone the Pacific? Like,
but Britain did it not too much later. But I guess, you know, a little bit of time makes a lot of progress sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to think that's how modern day drug dealers kind of look at their situation. They're like, we're just kind of essentially like pirates were in the 17th and 16th century and shit. You're like, we're like, we know we're not supposed to take these bananas straight to America. We got to go through that port. But fuck it, like if we do that, they're gonna tax us, and we're not gonna get all the money. You know what I mean? Like, so fuck it, let's just run the bananas. Let's just it's like, you know. And then like you got the British, oh, you taking these bananas? Fuck you. It's like, because I like that. Every time I think of humans acting in such a way like that, I'm like, that is all the evidence that we need that we're fucking primates, right there. Like,
That's what we act like. Anybody who thinks that we're anything but primates needs to look at, if you look at the world as though we're primates, there are very, very few questions anymore.
yep.
You know what? Okay, what about the gas chambers? Give a monkey a tank and see what he does with it. He's gonna round.
Oh my god, best idea for a webcomic ever. Fucking a monkey with a tank.
A monkey with a tank. He'll round people up and kill them. So.
Give me a second. My little man is waking up from his sleep, so
Oh,
gather him real quick.
do you need me to let you go, or do you have to go be responsible now? Well, this has been a productive conversation about I don't know, race or something. Black Lives Matter. People take note. I think white racists and black racists take note. Probably. I don't want to get all love-any, but obviously there's some basic common background of rationality that humans share, and the amount of melanin in your skin is obviously not relevant. And some people watching these videos, but this video right now and this talk right now, their head would flip off and ask why we're talking to each other for various obvious reasons. But I obviously don't have a problem with it. It's just insane that I would even have to say that or point that out at this point. But it is the case. What I'm so worried about is that other room is probably going on still. There are probably those other three, or who knows, maybe more people in that room stop talking right now that are not being recorded. That's quite a worry. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to join, you can click various places, my Facebook, in the comments. I haven't put in the comments on the YouTube thing maybe, but we've been with Veet. Veet has joined me from Heroes, where we originally met. So we just met last week. I don't think we've talked before last week, or maybe we sort of saw each other tangentially before that, but I think we just met in last week's hangout. But oh, I just telling them where I knew you from Piro's hangout.
Oh, do we have somebody else come in?
No, I'm just talking to my viewers. We'll get more views over the next week or two than we get tonight. That's for sure.
I hear you on that one. Yes, as long as somebody's watching.
Oh, they will.
Checking out.
They will.
So,
I leave this shit up for years. I don't care.
Let me show you my pride and joy right here.
All right. Yeah. What's the name?
Jaden. Yep, little JJ. All right, buddy. Yeah. Come on. Yes. Yes. What you up doing, man? Here we go. Oh my goodness.
Oh, there
my
we
goodness.
go.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yep. His mommy's using the bathroom, and then we'll send him back her way.
Just talk for a minute so you get full camera.
Oh. There we go. Oh, yeah. Here you go. Yeah, there he is again. Ooh, what are you doing? You looking at Mr. Cropper? You're just eating your hands. Yeah, just eating your hands.
Wow, I'm guessing his mother has beautiful eyes because he has beautiful eyes and your eyes are shit. So.
His mom does have beautiful eyes.
Is that right? I'm kidding. Your eyes are beautiful too, but
I know. I say that's why I figured you had a pretty good sense of humor when you were coming into Furo's groups, because like the shit you were saying was making me laugh. Like people were getting offended. I was like, I think he's joking, y'all. Like y'all saying he's trolling, but I think he's just fucking joking. And y'all taking the shit he's saying too serious.
Yeah, I do a bit of trolling, but it's so close to the truth that it's hard for people to catch up with me. So
I'm gonna mute the thing for a sec. Come here, buddy. No, I know. How long has it been since you heard that sound?
6 years.
Take the whole thing with All right, there we go. But yeah, I was saying, how long has it been since you've had to hear that sound?
About 6 years.
Oh man, okay. Well, out of 6 years, that's not too long ago. She got Jess just she got 11 years, so she got you beat. By the way, since she's already here, I'm gonna give her credit as due. She was the one who exposed the sock puppets. She discovered that. She turned me on to the fact that you did the sock puppet theater thing.
Oh, the sock puppets. Those were brilliant. I should do more of those someday.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if you start that back up. I'm gonna have to start my own series with sock puppets. I shit you not, and we could just go back and forth with that. If you
Nice. Massimo from Italy has just joined. Massimo, welcome to the jig.
Shoot,
What's up, guys?
Good to see you, man.
Fine. Good to see you too. I was watching your wonderful offspring.
Thank you. Yeah, he's something else.
Is a guy?
Yeah, I know it's hard to tell at that age.
Yeah.
Yep. Little boy.
Now, is his mom Chinese or something? Because those eyes were like wonderful, sort of Asian eyes.
Irish descent.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's what you get then. Is Asian eye. You put an African and an Irish together, you get Asian eyes.
It makes sense to me because it's like, that's right, Ireland, Africa, and then let's just head east. Fuck it. We know it's west. We know it's south. What's over there?
Right. Well, now we know where the Chinese came from.
Yep.
Is it true?
I thought that. I was like, my babies look Asian, and I was like, Jess, we got something to worry about, like Chinese takeout or something.
Yeah,
I go jack up some Chinese dude somewhere.
My daughter looked almost completely like me, not like my wife, and I said, "Are you sure that you're the mother?"
It's not a surrogate. You didn't put somebody else's egg in there, did you?
Is it true that I heard that President Obama has some Irish roots?
I don't know. I know that he's got a white mother and a black father, or vice versa.
Yeah, his mom. I don't know actually. His mom's kind of. There's not a lot publicly out there. I mean, there is and there isn't about his mom. It's kind of like when he became president, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and kind of seal some of this shit up." Like,
yeah, it's not polite. Well, he's black. Period. Full stop. It's not polite to talk about his white roots.
Yeah. It was like we're not even gonna acknowledge that this dude grew up in like the Midwest, like, and in Chicago, and spent like the summers with his like pretty wealthy grandparents. Like they were pretty well to do. Like.
Yeah, he's from the upper class. He's from the white upper class.
Yeah.
And
he never fooled me. Yeah, he never fucking had me fooled. From the beginning, I'm like, I know exactly what you are.
But maybe I was remembering badly from a speech that the President Obama made when he went to Ireland.
Oh, dude, you could be way more. Yeah, I haven't listened to all of his stuff because he gets around.
What did he say?
I'll listen to that. Yeah.
It was some years ago, really. But
I'll look for it and let you know what I find next time we talk.
When he went to Dublin, I think, for a visit, and he had a public speech. But I don't know. Maybe he was doing making some joke, but he referred to his Irish ancestry.
Really?
I don't know if it was a joke or something, but I remember clearly that he said that.
Well, if his mother's white, then she's probably got some Irish in her. So I can't imagine a white person in America that couldn't say they have some Irish in them somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that sounds really plausible. I mean, yeah. But he also claims Muslim stuff sometimes. So.
Were you talking about, in fact, racial issues just earlier?
Rational issues? What issues?
Racial.
Oh, racial?
Racial issues. Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
spent like an hour on that.
Which
Yeah,
I
that
know,
was fun, too.
which I know is a very big deal in America.
Well,
Yeah,
okay. Now, is it Veet? Do you think it's as big of a deal here as it is in other places in the world where it's?
Well, I know that. I don't know. I know it's. I know what I've been through here in the United States, and I know it doesn't. It's not just here, and I know that, like in some okay, so I can compare it to in some parts of Africa, there's still racism, or not even racism, but there's just this culturalism between those are the motherfuckers that live over there, and we're the motherfuckers that live here. And we've always lived there, and they've always lived there, and they think the way they do, and we think the way they do, and there's no willing to accept that there's like a middle ground, a gray area, that the painting with the whole broad brush thing. So I imagine that this phenomenon of prejudice is not just isolated to America, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some communities or countries out there that are way more progressive, and then some out there that are way less progressive. So yeah. I would definitely love to hear Massimo's perspective coming from Italy, though, because Italy is a fairly diverse place, isn't it?
What do you mean by diverse?
Well, y'all have a lot of people. I mean, do a lot of people move to Italy that actually stay there, or is it pretty much people just born there that live there?
Mainly people who lives here is born here, are born here. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I think that this racial issue is very difficult for me, at least, to understand, because personally I don't give a damn about what color of the skin anybody has, because it seems to me very stupid to concentrate on a trivial thing like pigmentation,
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely trivial. I agree with you.
I used to have a colleague of mine who came from. She was adopted, and she's clearly from African origin.
Okay.
But the only thing I remember about her is that when we went to the beach, she didn't burn, and
It's a handy function, dude. It's a handy function. Yeah.
That's the only racial issue I really have. But
it's like, you ain't gonna buy suntan lotion.
Yes, I understand, but I think it's more of a serious issue, because it really has nothing to do with the color. Color is just, the external representation of something very much deeper, as far as cultural differences exists. What I find very stupid is that in good and in bad, one takes credit or takes blame for his own racial heritage. It is very stupid, because I think that credits and blames are individuals.
Yep.
And so,
I agree with you. I can't penalize people for owning slaves 200 years ago. I can penalize people for owning slaves now, but fuck it, 200 years ago, that shit's done and over with. Is that where you're getting at with that?
if you can penalize me for owning slaves 200 years ago, I can penalize you for being a slave 200 years ago, and then we're on to a real fight.
That's a great way to take. That's a great way to take that. Yeah, that dynamic's like. So you're technically still a slave, right? So you're picking my cotton tomorrow, right?
So let's go. If you want to do that, then it's on to a real fight. That's serious, you know?
Yeah.
So either we leave the stuff behind or we didn't, you know, for real. Either we leave it behind or we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think this slavery issue, of course, has left some scars in American culture, which are visible even now.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. The scars, because that's what they feel like, in terms of like looking at the communities and stuff.
The problem is that, for example, talking about the slavery issue, again, I think that the color is only a pretext, because really we are talking about a phenomenon which took place maybe in the 17th or 18th century, and I think that the slave owners didn't give a fucking shit about the color of the slaves. They only the thing that really mattered to them is to own slaves. That was the issue, and the different color was just excuse to own slaves.
Yep, a convenient excuse. Yep.
A convenient excuse. So, in fact, I am pretty sure that I don't know in America, but in other places of the world, in the same period or earlier, there were white slaves or Asian slaves owned by other people. So the color is just it's just not interesting. The problem is the humanity of the slaves that was not recognized for utilitarian purposes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because
again,
it was like a shift. Like what happened was so after we fought the Civil War and we passed a law saying like, okay, well, you can't have slaves. What the slave owners did was a lot of them just coerced or convinced slaves that had already been there to just not leave. So then the North tried to enforce they literally occupied the South, and they tried to enforce the new law that you can't own slaves. And what happened was that was working, but there then became this cultural divide in politics where the South felt like they didn't have an equal right in the actual voting process. And so eventually the North just gave up and pulled their troops out. And what happened was sharecropping and stuff like that. So like instead of just being, it almost went back to like the original days before it was just almost exclusively black people that were slaves. It then became, okay, well, how many poor migrants and immigrants can be convinced to flood over here and then use them as slave labor, essentially, because we can pay them dirt cheap next to nothing. And we kept doing that till I think really today. I think we still really do, like, we just kept doing that, and we just outsource it to the Chinese, because we're like, well, we're not going to enslave them, but if their people want to enslave them and force them to do, inhumane shit, we'll make a profit off of it, but we'll keep our hands free of it any other way. That sound about right?
Oh, okay, so after the Civil War, it was not any longer legal to sell or buy people. Mm-hmm. On the marketplace. I mean, it was not any longer legal to put shackles on their ankles, mm-hmm. or to tie them like they were animals. Mm-hmm. But you say that the situation shifted from a legal slavery mm-hmm. to a de facto slavery.
That's a great way to put it. I've been looking for months de facto slavery.
Because as you said, when you pay, or are you allowed to pay for dirt cheap labor, the only difference from actual slavery is a piece of rope.
Oh wow, that was prophetic. That was prophetic, or prophetic. Like, yeah, I like.
I remember reading a very important book for me, which of course you know much better than me, which is The Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck.
Oh wow, dude, good choice. When did you pick that book up for the first time?
My mother told me to read it.
Nice.
And I read it because she was a she liked American literature very much. She liked, for example, Fitzgerald, Francis Scott Fitzgerald, or Steinbeck, Hemingway, Mark Twain. She used to like, but because she's passed away some years ago, she used to like American literature, and she suggested me to read Steinbeck. I remember the story of Tom Joad in the book, where
Speak on it, brother. Speak on it.
These people had to flee from their own land because they couldn't leave from the land anymore because of the Dust Bowl, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they fled to California from Oklahoma. That was the story.
Mm-hmm.
And when they reached California, they had to accept less than bare minimum wage, and they called themselves even lucky to find someone who gave them maybe, I don't know, 5 penny a day for working in the fields, picking up cotton, and picking up grapes, which gives the title to the novel. So, but in fact, I assume that I don't know if it is told in the book, but I assume that these people were white people.
Yeah, they were.
The Joad family. I think I think they were of, in fact, of Irish descent.
Yeah, that's actually why the British outlawed slavery. Almost, I want to say it was almost 20 years before America did, was because there was started to be like this conscious awakening around the world where it was like, wait, what the fuck are we doing? Like, yeah, slaves are convenient, quote unquote convenient, but like, who's to say that our kids won't be slaves one day? Or our kids' won't be slaves. Like maybe we should stop this practice. Maybe
well,
we should,
you ask.
yeah.
I just have to say there are some people who say that the reason that slavery was, the reason it moved out of fashion in those countries is because they became rich enough for it to move out of fashion. And as the world moves richer and richer, slavery will become less and less necessary. Because all slavery means is that there's a group of people who don't get any enjoyment, but they have to put in a lot of work. And the richer society gets, the fewer that number of people is. So if that's true, then slavery should eventually disappear once we're rich enough and we don't need it. So
Well,
I don't know.
I can see the logic in that.
Sounds nice.
Sure. Yeah. Well, no, not even it sounds nice, like, because the only reason I can say I can see the logic in it is because, like, yeah, I can see that with England, because they had gotten to a point, like, I mean, what else could they fucking build with slaves? I mean, they had built up like all this shit, like, oh, we did it, we got it, all right, well, now we just, dust, it gave them time to think about, why the fuck do we need to keep owning these motherfuckers, like,
Yeah,
because there was really no need for it, because at that point you just needed upkeep.
Yeah,
But, you still saw the chimney sweeps. There was still a whole lower economic class, because, I mean, that's the class system. I think that's really what we're getting away from, the class system, which is, then before that, the caste system.
So you said in Britain they didn't have a need for slaves because they needed skilled workers. They had factories and stuff. Their economy was developing.
That's why Solomon Northup got kidnapped in 12 Years a Slave, was because slaves are you got somebody who was born into slavery, it makes it easier to keep somebody a slave if they can't read or write, because they can't send letters saying like, help me, I'm a compassionate human being and they're fucking torturing me. But there's certain things you don't get with that either. Like, you don't educate them, they're not going to know how to engineer. They're not going to know, they're only going to grow as much as you allowed them to grow. And Solomon Northup go for it.
Actually, no, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you inspired me to make my own thought. So
yeah, go for it. Yeah, because I'll be able to hold mine. Yeah.
I really think that I'm not young anymore. I went through lots of transformation in my life, but I really think it is not rhetoric. I really think that the worst thing you can do to a man is to take away his own freedom to do with himself what he wants to do.
I agree with you 100%.
Anything else stems from this,
Yep.
I can be maybe a hobo, a homeless man in the streets, but at least I can decide my own part of destiny.
Yes.
In fact, I think one of the things I'm not an ideological or religious man. I'm a very down to earth, I think. But what it really disturbs me, for example, is the idea that I cannot decide about my own death.
Oh wow, yeah. That's kind of coming to terms with that is an interesting thing. Yeah, I'm working on that now myself, actually.
I hope it is a long way to go for me, but I really dread the moment when I could not make my own decision about my last living days.
I feel you. I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. Wow.
And so life and death are quite entangled in this discussion. But I think that last moments of your life, you must have the right to decide for yourself, if you can. It is very difficult in Italy, because Italy is a Catholic country. There is a strong Catholic culture, and the Catholic culture is against self-determination about life and death issues.
So what you're saying is that toward the end of life, you're not allowed to choose, like when to unplug the machines or when to take some overdose medicine, or what?
There is an ongoing discussion in Italy about this, and in Europe in general. In Italy in particular, as I told you, the presence of the Catholic culture produces a lot of difficulties about that, and there has been some legislation proposal to give the people right about it was the biological will, like when you do your
gotcha.
like when you do your will for your hairs, you write your final
your family and stuff.
Yes, and it was called the biological will, which you do about what to do if you are unable to speak or to decide for therapy in extreme condition. But there were some cases in Italy some years ago of people who went through serious trauma or illness and spent the last years of their life unconscious or tied up to a machine, and there were a couple of cases when the family told the doctors that the girl, in fact, had decided years ago that in that situation she didn't want to be kept alive. But the politics came rolling into the issue, and for political reasons, they pulled the family in one direction or the other. And in the meantime, the desires that this girl expressed years before went unsatisfied, because she really didn't want to spend years tied up to a machine. She wanted to die peacefully, but the politics did a very bad job in that situation, because they used it as a weapon to bring on their own agenda about, a religion, conscience.
How we look at life and respect life and stuff. They try to turn it into this whole, the sanctity of life type
Exactly,
of
exactly. You said perfectly.
We had a situation like this in America in the early 2000s with a woman named Terri Schiavo, who
I remember that, because the name of this girl came in the newspaper here as a analogy with the Italian case.
Good stuff then. Good journalist.
Yes, the name of the Italian girl was Eluana.
Mm-hmm.
And they always told it's the same situation as the American Terri Schiavo.
Yep. It speaks to the power that corrupt organizations can kind of, or at least misguided organizations can kind of have in the political sphere, when they change the conversation about what somebody's will is versus what their will is.
But again, it's all about freedom of choice. The minimum you must grant to one human being is to decide about his own life. It's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And I even have problems with kind of the way we deal with incarceration in that regard too.
What about it?
Well, for somebody that steals something, I think it's different than somebody who kills somebody, like, in a serious way. Like, we shouldn't be locking those types of people together. Like, somebody who steals something should be locked up next to somebody who's a murderer.
Oh,
that just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think if we freed everybody who was in there for drugs, then those other problems would be less of a problem. We have enough jail space for
100%. 100%. Because
So,
the drug issue is something that's a really personal type of struggle that, I wish Gentle Chaos was in here, because he had mentioned he had spent 12 years locked away, and I'd love to have a person's perspective that's been on the inside, because that's one thing they talk about is they talk about themselves with each other in there and how they're dealing with that, because that's like, only though the prisoners understand it, really.
Yeah, it's a shame I couldn't get that room tunneled into ours or whatever. It's a shame.
Now, I'd like to propose you give you a piece of information, Vit.
Okay.
Is it Vit or Vite?
It's Vite, but either one sounds good.
Vite. Oh, you know what the Camorra is?
Yeah.
It's a kind of a mob organization in southern Italy.
Oh man, I didn't know they were still operating like that.
Oh, they are really operating.
Oh, that's not good.
Now I tell you one thing that happened a couple of years ago. Well, Camorra is sort of like the mafia,
Mm-hmm.
They are people who takes. They don't think about any minute to put your put you inside a bathtub full of acid if they want to.
Ooh.
That kind of
Ooh.
people, you know.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Like, basically, cruel. They're just cruel people.
Do you know what the Mexican drug cartel is?
Oh man, dude.
Like, something like that.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have something. We have something like that in southern Italy. You know.
Uh-huh. Because like in my area, what I have to worry about is I have to worry about the Ku Klux Klan. That's what I have to worry about.
Really? Is it really
Oh,
a
yeah.
thing?
Yeah. So like I found out about 5 years ago. So the money, like the Klan, they hide their money here in North Carolina.
But you mean the people with the white hoods?
Yeah, they don't wear the white hoods as much because that's kind of it's not socially acceptable to be in the Klan, but it is socially acceptable to be in the Klan.
Well, it's some
like,
crazy
it
shit.
is and it isn't. Yeah.
So V,
So like, go
V
for it.
we might clue Massimo in just a little bit that the Klan is not quite the Hollywood picture of what it was. It's sort of like a group of upper class white people or
That's
white
it.
people of
That's
some
it.
kind,
Mm-hmm.
and they're real, but it's not the Hollywood thing that it used to be necessarily.
Yep.
But
Yep,
but
yep.
but they're there.
The reason I left my previous job was I found out that the owner was a member of the one of the high-ranking members of the Ku Klux Klan in my
But-
town.
Excuse me, but was he aware that you are a black man?
Yes, and that was part of the reason that he liked. So like here, the place I worked at, guess the only people that worked in the kitchen were black and Hispanic. Like everybody else that like worked the registers and were waiters and stuff, they're white.
See, Massimo,
So-
they don't want to kill every black person. They just want to keep black people down in the low stations.
Yeah.
That's what they. I mean, in their opinion, that's where we belong. And like, you know, it's surprising to them, like people that think that way, that you know, people are intelligent, like way more than they might give them credit for. Because I mean, they're so intelligent that they're making the money, like they're good at their job, like.
Well, you know, intelligence and morality are not the same thing.
For sure.
One of the kindest people I ever known in my life had went only to third grade school.
Nice. It sounds like a lot like my I got an uncle who never graduated elementary school. He's like in his 70s, but he taught me a lot of stuff about life.
But it's not only about knowing stuff, but about being kind to
Yes.
you know your fellow man. So in fact, I knew a lot of people with multiple college degrees, which are despicable human beings.
Yeah.
That's a great essay. I'm glad you're stating it for the record, because people don't state that. Like, especially, I'm not gonna say especially here. I only have the American experience. I haven't left this country, and if I left this country, I had to spend some time in another country before I felt like I had a good enough perspective of it. But yeah, here in America, that is kind of a thing that people hold up, like, oh, well, they got a PhD in such and such. It's like, but what were their grades in school? Like, let's just look at some of the papers they wrote. Like, let's add them up as a whole person. Let's not just take the piece of paper and just, because we don't need the piece of paper, we need the person. Like,
Well, I think, V, you said you had been to school. I think you and I both know that the peoples that make it through that are able to keep their heads down and not think too hard.
well,
You know? And there are people who give up and walk away because they've got their head on straight and they're awake. And they say, what the hell's going on here? And they walk away from it. So,
yeah.
and to some extent, you do have to have perseverance to make it through it. But to another extent, it's true that the people who make it through that shit are willing to put their heads down and not think too hard. So that's what a college degree largely means, is you were able to stick it through without thinking too much for yourself and just putting up with a lot of shit.
Yeah, and I've heard that there's universities out there that are not like the one I went to, where they have like more of a like you kind of just build your own There's no general education, so you just kind of go in there and get what you want out of your college. And I wish I went to a university like that, because I probably would have done more personal growing then, as opposed to when I left school. Is when I started going on that personal route. Because the only benefit I got from going to the university I did was it was such a shithole that everybody kind of banded together, because they were like, well, this shit's fucking terrible, so we got to make something enjoyable about this experience.
Wow.
I was. Can I take the conversation back to one issue?
Yeah.
Mr. Cropper just said that he wanted to clue me about the representation of certain American issues which are different from the Hollywood picture. For example, about the Klan, the Ku Klux Klan. But I was thinking the same about the way Italians are represented in Hollywood pictures. And
I think that's pretty accurate. I think we got you guys pretty accurate there.
That's a bit of a presumption of you.
Okay.
If you think that Italians are like you know The Sopranos.
Yeah.
No, I haven't watched.
You haven't watched? White, did you ever watch The Sopranos?
Yes, I'll say I watched The Sopranos, and
it is not a faithful representation. I can promise you that.
good, because I was like, it was points in that time when I was watching that series, because like I said, that series was airing when I was growing up. So I guess I'm 28, so. And that series was like, oh, it was like the big thing in America, the theme song and all that stuff like that. But to me, it was like, yeah, it was okay, but a lot of it was kind of cheesy. It didn't seem like believable.
How is it not accurate?
Well, the main thing is that they try to picture the mafia as some kind of benevolent thing, even as smart people. It is not that way. I was talking about some things that these people really do in the southern part of Italy. It is appalling. It is appalling, and I was thinking about something that White told me before about the incarceration problem in America, and I wanted to tell you this thing. Couple of years ago, they arrested maybe 5 or 10 bosses, of the Kirkamore. We are talking about people who ordered the homicide of maybe I don't know, certainly hundreds of people, each one of them, and it is alleged that some of them even killed the people with their own bare hands, with the ropes around the neck.
Yeah, because strangulation is like one of the most common ways that people kill each other.
And this kind of bosses did these things for showing their manhood. It is kind of a right. You have to do at least one killing with your own hands to go up the ladder of the organization. And I read an interview with the judge, one of the judges who condemned these people, and he told that these particular bosses, they were out on the streets 3 years after.
Wow.
Oh my God, are you fucking serious?
3 years. The effective jail duration was 3 years, and then the lawyers could convince the new judge to put them out on probation.
That to me, I mean, like, I don't even know where to begin with how, like, Because to me, that just means like okay, so that means there's a society we're just not gonna punish organized crime, like particularly like heinous acts that are like but like why the fuck did they get? I mean, do you think that they use like their pressure to actually threaten other people to like, oh, if you don't get them light sentences, the rest of the fucking we're gonna fucking start tearing shit up, like. I mean,
Well,
do you think it was
right,
money?
you must understand one thing. It's all about the money, of course,
Oh man.
but you must understand that the Camorra is really infiltrating. Is it correct to say infiltrate?
Yeah. Oh, because that's what it is. That's what it is. It's not like they're walking in there and go, all right, we're mobsters and we're gonna take over your government.
Yeah, but they really have people in the government, in the local government, regional government. So they can force the lawmaking process in a way.
We see a very similar we see a very similar situation here in America. It's that, oh my gosh, that's like, 'cause y'all are such a smaller country that like, yeah, that means it doesn't take as much to corrupt y'all's government. Whereas
In fact,
in America, yeah.
In fact, there are parts of Italy which are, in fact, under mob control. The territory is under mob control.
Are you safe talking about this right now?
I hope.
I guess as long as you're anonymous, it's cool.
Well, it's a well-known thing.
Okay. Okay.
I'm reporting speeches made by the judiciary people.
Okay. Gotcha. So
And,
it's common knowledge. They were like, oh, they're bragging about us. This is good.
It's common knowledge, corruption and criminal infiltration in the government, in the local government of certain part of Italy.
How do we fight?
But if you corruption is a thing here. If you open a newspaper, you find daily things about corrupt politicians, and so it is understandable that it is this way.
We can't fight that. We have that in Alabama and Washington D.C. and
everywhere
and California.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we got Bible judges in Alabama. We got far leftist judges in New York City.
And Klansmen in North Carolina.
Exactly. So it's never going anywhere. The only thing to do is, do you have a gun in your house and are you ready to defend your life?
I don't have a gun, but I have plenty of weapons.
Get a gun.
Well, my only problem with the gun is that now I got a gun, and those are dangerous motherfuckers. And if I leave it around loaded, because I'm like, I never know when somebody's gonna kick my door open, then I got a loaded gun and I got kids in the house. So,
right.
I'm an edged weapon type of guy. I'm a more like, if somebody's gonna break into my house, they're gonna have to deal with the sword and the clubs.
Okay. Here's what happens.
I got dogs. I got dogs on the perimeter. So.
All right, that's pretty good. But what you hear is that all honest citizens are being called to the state legislature because the guns are being seized. Bring your gun.
No, I'm not. As a black man in America, I ain't going anywhere outside my house with a gun. Come on, let's be real about this shit, dude.
Okay, if it comes to a war about the guns, I'm probably going to have to fight it, and you're probably going to hunker down, huh?
As it is right now in America, a cop could drop his gun. I'm like, you dropped your gun, he'll just pick it up and shoot me. Like...
Yeah, that BLM stuff is going nowhere fast. I'll tell you what. Oh, hey, why don't we talk about that for a minute? Because we got to,
I want to talk about this corruption thing, though, because we can get to that in a little bit for sure. I don't mind talking about that.
But no, the mob that runs part of Italy, that's fascinating.
I can tell you one thing, but I was trying to drive to a conclusion, but because it's not an easy issue to think about it, because I was really concerned about these judges who gave interviews to the newspaper, trying to explain the social consequences of such things, and there is one thing that this judge told is, people who look around and see that a mafia or Camorra boss with multiple homicide charges takes a 3-year sentence, effective, and how does the common man, the man on the street, the regular Joe, has to behave? What is the message that the government gives to the people when you have a 3-year sentence de facto, when with multiple homicide charges? So it becomes clear to the people that it is more convenient to side with the criminals than to side with the police, or the judges.
So it's the illusion. It's the illusion of a choice when there actually isn't any choice at all.
In fact, it's exactly like that. You can say that the Camorra and the mafia give to the people, especially to the young people, an easy way out. But it's not very a way out. It is more like a vortex.
Self-perpetuating cycle.
Well,
Yes.
it's a choice. It's a choice to either be a slave or to resist it, but be a slave anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
the guys.
I give you an example. There are certain part of Naples, southern Italy. You know Naples.
I'm about to say, wasn't there an earthquake there or something?
It is
or a landslide or something?
It is a very unstable, geologically unstable part of Italy.
Gotcha.
Yes, Naples. But there is a volcano inside the town, a volcano.
That's what it is about Naples. That's what it is. They got a volcano there.
But there are certain parts of Naples where the kids they don't go to school, because they find that going to school is less, how can I say, less cool, less fascinating than stay in the streets, maybe selling bootleg cigarettes.
Wow. Wow.
And in fact, siding with the Camorra.
Now, are these immigrant youths?
No. They are local youth.
Huh.
It's just
In
such
fact,
it's a culture of stagnation where you see these rundown, well, not even necessarily rundown communities, but there's.
I don't know
hard
if
to describe. I mean, I wish I could see it with my own eyes, because I'd be able
I don't
to
know
put
if
the words
I don't
better,
know
yeah.
if I don't know if it's the same, but it's much like what you have in rundown parts of big American towns like Chicago,
Yeah.
maybe,
That's what I
or
was just
maybe.
about to say. I see that dynamic. So, like, if I go to any of the poor areas in my town, it's very easy for me to buy drugs there. If I wanted to buy drugs, it'd be very easy for me to buy bootleg cigarettes there. I could buy moonshine there. I could probably buy prostitution there in stolen goods.
Probably.
If I looked harder. But there's also a level of, like, just by being in that community, you're setting yourself up to be victimized, because that's where the criminals are at, or that's where some of the criminals are at. And if the cops see you in that area, you might, be perceived as a criminal.
Now I come to the main issue, in my opinion.
Oh, gotcha.
And I like that you told this, because it gives me inspiration to put my thought a step forward. As I told you, I used to work as a juvenile counselor and I am very concerned about this issue, because as a matter of fact, the future of my country is in the hand of the youth.
That's it. That's it.
So
what they decide to do. Yep.
It is very important to build a solid ground for the youth, for the future of the country.
Agreed.
So, what I see is this, and I hope you can give me some pointers to think about this thoroughly. So I give you the facts. I see young people from so families, not criminal families, but middle class families, lower middle class family, which tends to gravitate around this kind of lifestyle. For example, I can tell you about the daughter of two well-to-do parents, not rich but okay people, you know, regular workers with no particular family problems. But she started to grow near certain kind of part of town where drug is easily found, where there is a lifestyle, you know, a gangster lifestyle that she finds appealing for reason that are difficult to explain in a few words. It has to do with the way the teenager thinks, maybe. But I think this is the problem. There is, and if I want to hear from your opinion, if you care, a problem that the media, certain kind of media, Hollywood, television, music, pictures this kind of lifestyle as desirable.
Yep, glamorize it.
Glamour, yes, that was the word I was looking for, glamorizing. So you see the gangster with the gun, with lots of money, lots of bling bling, you know, cars, mansions, and these people. But not only that, even the rundown aspect, you know, the jungle type of. You see kids of 15, 16 years old kids that they feel their manhood is amplified by siding with this kind of people.
Yep.
Which in fact is not, in my opinion, because in fact they are giving up their own individuality that way. But what do you think can be the how can we start to find a solution to this issue? How can we say to the young people, look, there is another path you can go, which is maybe more difficult, but it is convenient for you. It is best for you. How can we start to convince these young people? Tell me, please.
All right. Well, the first thing I got to say, I don't want to, unless Brandon, you want to go first, and then I'll add what I got on there. Second.
No, I think Veed, I think you might speak to it better because you're in this group of people that are more involved in violence. And is there a group of people inside there that are questioning it and wondering where this should go?
That's what I was about to say. So I think the first thing I'll start off with is that you guys, like Massimo, your communities, and I know you know this, are already fighting against it. So that's give yourself some credit for that you guys are already resisting this.
We are trying to do this.
Yeah, the second thing is, what I've seen works is something somebody told me a long time ago, a teacher of mine, is if you keeping kids busy until they grow up is pretty much the only way you can do it, because it's kids, their brain habit, like specifically teenagers, their risk assessment hasn't really formed in their brain yet, because it takes you making mistakes to learn that mistakes hold consequences. So if those mistakes are stuff that they're not killing people, they're not hurting people, you know, stuff like that, and they grow up, they'll go, okay, I didn't have to do any of that stuff, and I didn't do any of that stuff, so therefore I am not any of these things. But if they do all this stuff, then they end up like my friend from Massachusetts who robbed, stole, hurt people, because he thought that was just you know, fine. He thought that was just what people did to do it from his situation, from his perspective. He had actually honestly never really sat back and analyzed who he was as a person. But so like one of the things I try to do is keeping people talking and keeping people like inspired through things like music, through
Well, okay,
entertainment.
before I forget, because I've had a few
for it.
beers, let me give mine real quick, because you
Mhm.
said keeping people inspired through music, and now mine's so radically different that I want to offer mine.
Go for it.
Mine is when someone violates someone else's rights, put them in jail and let them sit there for a really long time. And keep doing that and keep building more jails and let all the drug offenders out. And so these mob people, I would give them a nice warm seat in the jail for 30, 40 years, 50 maybe, 60 years. Maybe
Yeah, 'cause
even
we got to
70.
remove that out. We have to remove that element from the community because I can speak. So like, all right, so there's a community not too far from here where I live at. There's a big city, and in that big city, you have communities that if you go through those communities and you don't know what the no's are, you don't know what the no's are, if you don't know what the ends are, let me phrase it. If you don't know what to do and what not do, it's going to become very obvious that you're an outsider. And for the criminal aspects in that community, they're going to then gravitate towards you to take advantage of that in one way or another. Now, if you know what those things are, you can kind of be immune to it to a certain extent, but at some point they're eventually going to come knocking for you. And when they come knocking for you, that's when you have to deal with them right then, like the mobsters right then and there. And that's never an easy solution because they could, if they're, I mean, it all depends on what they're willing to do. I mean, it could just be an empty threat, but it could actually be a serious threat too. So never take it lightly. But with each person that you guys save, keep from falling into this despair, this mentality that you can just do whatever you want in your community and it's not going to have any impact on it. It's not going to have any impact on the individual. Will start to melt away after generations, after generation after generation.
Well,
But
Massimo wants it to be fixed in the next 10 years.
Yes, I think White is thinking long term,
Yeah.
but
well, that's the only way I can think about that in that regard because I know people don't change overnight per se.
I'm giving him a solution that'll work in the next decade. Just lock everybody up that
Well, I
violates
think that
the law.
definitely we got to get the corruption out of the government. And my only question with that is, do we do it by force or do we do it through obstinance?
Guns.
Like,
Many guns.
because if we do it by force, we run the risk of essentially a fascist like coming to power.
No, that's what they have right now is fascism in Naples. They have fascism.
well, it's more like mob rule.
Well, what is fascism?
Mob rule.
Yeah. So you have
Well,
fascism.
it is not institutionalized. But,
Yeah.
No, it's not
more like feudalism.
ideological. No, it's money-based instead of ideology-based, but it's fascism.
in a way, you are right.
Yeah. See, because the way I look at these communities is like, okay, so if I were to use, okay, so there's a guy that lives down the road from me, right? And the cops don't like him because he sells marijuana and other stuff. And, some of his neighbors don't like him because he sells drugs and, I think he sells cocaine too. Well, you would think that the community would be able to do something about this, right? They'd be able to turn him into the police and the police would just come arrest him. But he's a savvy criminal. So anytime the police have tried to arrest him, he doesn't ever have anything on them to arrest him. So
So
go for it. So I think like your approach with the whole drugs thing, like letting people out of jail for drugs, is a great step in the right direction because if he doesn't have anybody to sell drugs to, he's not going to sell drugs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Take away
yeah.
away the demand, the supply hasn't a reason to exist.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, if he's basically a good person, then at that point he would go get an honest job. If he's
There you go.
basically a bad person, then at that point he would go start robbing people and get put in jail for real crime.
There it is. So I think that would be a great step in the right direction. Is fixing that like weird the way we go about doing that.
Yeah.
what else could I? What other things could I use for an analogy or an example to kind of
Well,
move this
well,
dialogue
Massimo,
forward?
what do you think of that, of putting everyone in jail who violates the law, put them there for a long time and see how that does it?
Well, I have to think about this because, as usual, Brandon, you give unusual solutions to problems. So it's not easy to give. I do not commit to a yes or no answer as of now.
Well,
I must.
I agree with you on that one. I can agree with you on that one.
how long do you think the mob guys should have got? Not 3 years, but what, 10, 20, 50, 1,000?
Well,
I'd say life.
this is a very serious issue because there is a thing in Italy we are discussing about for decades, which is the certainty of penalty.
Oh, that's an interesting concept.
Is it a correct way to say? To have a the thing that lacks in the judicial system is the certainty of the penalty.
Yeah, we have like the three strikes law. Like, you can't get away with 4 felonies because your third felony put you in prison for life. So you don't get 4 felonies.
But
Nobody.
is it true or is it a urban legend?
That's true. That there are
Oh
a
yeah,
lot
no,
of
that's
people.
just true as fuck. Yeah, yeah, they don't fucking play around. And then there's federal mandates too. So like,
So
federal
let's
mandate for selling drugs. Like,
let's
sorry,
say
go for it.
let's say I piss in the street for 3 times.
Well, that might not be a felony. A felony means that you can get at least a year for it.
Ah, okay. Okay. It's not a minor.
Right.
Okay, I got one. I got an example for you. So here in North Carolina, you can't carry a concealed weapon without, like, you can't carry a concealed gun without a permit. You can't carry a concealed weapon in public in general. So, all right, so if I get caught with a Bowie knife, like a big ass hunting knife on my hip that I was hiding, I get charged with a misdemeanor, right? The second time I get charged, it's a felony. If I get caught 2 more times, it's life in prison.
For a
Regardless of whether I
Bowie,
didn't cut nobody. Yeah,
for a
even though I didn't cut
Bowie,
anybody.
for
Because I'm
carrying a
just being
Bowie,
obstinate. Oh, what's up?
for carrying a Bowie knife.
Well,
Three-
I get for defying the law on 3 different occasions after I originally got my misdemeanor. So my misdemeanor would be probably like anywhere between 30 to 60 days in jail, or just possibly a fine.
Like
But
a
the
warning.
felony's gonna actually hold some. Yeah. Felony's gonna hold some actual weight with it, and it'd be harder for me to get that expunged off my record. Like you said, it'd be like a year up to the crime, and it would, like I said, I'd have a court date. So I mean, like if I got charged for carrying the knife once, and the second I got charged, the prosecutor might be going for a felony, but the judge might look at it and go, okay, this is a guy who just feels extra paranoid for whatever reason, so I'm going to just still slap him with a misdemeanor again. But if he fucks up again, then I'll probably more likely go against the same judge unless I'm in a different area. But my record will follow me no matter where I go. So there's that.
Well, there is another issue in Italy which is connected to this, that our courts are understaffed.
Oh, really? That's
So,
not good.
yeah, because there are backwards files going back to 10 years, 15 years, you know. So one way the government has tried to deal with this understaffing issue is to give the penal courts the instruments to make a short court business. I try to explain. If you are accused of some crime, and if you accept some kind of penalty, the penalty will be lenient if you accept it. In fact, you accept the penalty without a thorough investigation of your crime. You know,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
in this way, the court does its business in few days,
Gets fast.
and is fast. And the court is free to go on to the next thing. You know.
but
Gotcha.
they might not be prosecuting people as seriously and as hard as they should.
Yep.
In fact, one of the way that the Camorra people went through lenient jail sentences is this: the lawyers could use these and other instruments to. They went through the cracks of the system. You know, they play the system. They are very good lawyers that can give you a lenient sentence as far as you accept to go through the motions of the judicial systems.
Oh. See, they,
So
go for it.
everybody's happy in the mind of the politics because the court is free to go to the next file, and the lawyer get paid a lot, and but the thing is that the Camorra people goes out of jail in 3 years.
That's so freaking crazy to me though, because it's like here in America, like we go fucking hard as fuck on the average everyday person for crime, but we have that same fucking problem here too, where we let fucking criminals walk all the fucking time, especially for money, like especially money related crimes, and that same system exists where we saw it kind of with the O.J. Simpson trial.
Armed robbery will get you 7 years, but stealing $6 million will get you a year. And I mean $6 million through embezzlement.
And you actually made me think of something else too about the the fast tracking process in the court system, because one of the problems we have in America is we do that too. It's like we have a really good court system and judicial system, but we have some relatively lazy district attorneys and prosecutors in America, and we have some really overworked defense attorneys. So in America, everybody's got the right to legal defense, but if your legal defense has got 50 other cases that they're working on, they're not going to have that much time to really make you, come up with a good defense for you. Case in point was there was a gentleman named Khalif Browder who committed suicide last year. He was arrested at 16 years old for supposedly stealing a backpack, and he was locked up for 3 whole years before he actually even had a trial.
Like he was a Camorra man.
Well, no, basically he was locked up, but it was never proven that he'd ever even committed a crime.
By locked up, you mean he was in jail?
Yeah, he was at Rikers Island in New York, because there's this thing that'll happen if you get picked up by the police and they think that you did a crime. What's going to happen is the DA or the prosecutor might come to you and say, listen, we know you did it, so just admit you did it and we'll give you a lenient sentence. Even though you might know in your mind, I didn't do this. They're going to go, okay, well, he's not going to cooperate, so stick him back in jail for another 4 months, and we'll ask him again if he's willing to do a plea bargain. Because if you do the plea bargain, they don't have to worry about taking it to trial and actually having to convince a judge and a jury that you were guilty. And that is a very rampant problem in America. Like this kid was locked up for 3 years, and he was outspoken about it. He wrote letters to people and stuff like that. And after he got out, he went on the media circuit. He went and talked to people in the news and the journalists and stuff like that. And he then killed himself out of nowhere, and it surprised the hell out of a lot of people. Specifically, this one journalist, she had been building up a relationship talking to him, and she thought he was like getting better because she knew he was depressed. But it just got worse, because one of the things that happened to him was he was attacked by other prisoners while he was there, and he was at one particular incident. There's literally video footage of a guard actually taking him out of his cell and basically kicking him down a flight of stairs and then beating him on camera. And when he tried to report that officer, they threw him in solitary. So, like, that's kind of the corruption. Yeah, that's kind of the corruption we're dealing with.
It sounds like one of those cases of it's as long as I understand your tale is that this guy was a regular guy who maybe got maybe framed, or maybe he did actually something bad, but not so bad as to go all through that nightmare. But what it strikes me of your tale is that maybe this guy was genuinely convinced of his own innocence, and instead of he was not smart enough to play by the system's rule, and to accept a plea bargain was the smartest things to do, maybe. I don't know. And
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I think he was slipped through the cracks, sort of. I mean, didn't he sort of slip through the cracks, Vito? I mean, wasn't it just sort of like, I mean, there are a lot of
What happened was he got picked up by the police, and they told him, "Oh, we're just gonna go down to the station and talk to you, right?" So he went down to the station. They talked to him, and they basically were like, "Well, there was this rich kid that had their backpack stolen, and he matched the description, which was not much of a description. It was a black kid that supposedly did it. So he matched the description. Now this is in New York City. We're talking about, y'all. Like, so it's a crowded place." And before he knows it, they're just not let him. They never he never left that station. He went straight from that station to Rikers, and that's where he was at for 3 years.
Yeah, he sort of.
Been trying to convince him to
I mean, not all cases are like that.
No. But we see this practice happen very common with prosecutors just trying to convince somebody to take a plea bargain, even if there's reasonable doubt that they didn't commit the crime.
Yeah. Oh, there is.
That makes their job easier. They don't have to go through the motion, because they want to get those successes. Whether they find the person guilty in trial or whether they admit to a plea bargain, they still get credit for, another criminal off the street, quote unquote.
Yeah. Now there is that worry.
So
there is that worry about these, because we are letting people out who are in for drug offenses, and I've heard people say, look, sometimes when the district attorney and the local judge put these people away, they were able to get them on a drug charge, but they knew they had done lots of other things, armed robberies or break-ins or whatever. So the drug charge is just what they use to put them away. So if we let them out because all they have is a drug charge, that doesn't mean that's all they've ever done. All that means is all they could ever stick them with.
That's true. What do you think about hooking criminals up to MRI machines and scanning their brains and asking them questions?
Screw that. Fuck it.
Fuck that. I mean, that's a little too Orwellian.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Because I just had that idea. I'm like, well, that would have an interest. We get a lot of data, but I'm not sure if that data would do us any good.
If you can't find it out with fingerprints, you don't need the information. Fuck that.
Well, actually, they actually have done that study with just regular normal people, and they found out that people have supposedly normal people think about murder on a really relatively high percentage.
See, that's the problem. That's the problem.
People think, oh, he's just thinking about his dog. It's like, no, he's thinking about burying somebody that he doesn't like at work.
I was thinking about this. The guy that White told us about just earlier.
Khalif Browder.
Browder?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The fact you told us that he had a lot of problem with the inmates.
Yeah. It was because he said he went in at 16, and Rikers is notorious for having a really tough fighting culture.
It's a violent.
Once you get into Rikers, you're gonna have to fight to basically figure out where you're at on the totem pole. And he didn't want to fight. Yeah,
that I think that is revealing because he didn't blend in with the hardened criminals inside.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good point. That's a great point.
This is maybe I think this is a sign that this guy was in fact sort of innocent, because if he had the mens rea, which is Latin for the criminal mind, if he was a real criminal, he should have blended in with the criminals inside. Instead, as you told us, he got beat up. He didn't mix up with the criminals. He didn't go up the criminal ladder of the hierarchy inside the jail. So I think this guy was trying to hold on to his normal life, even when inside.
He didn't try to adapt. He was like, no, I'm going to fight this.
which is a very commendable thing to do. But again, it's very dangerous
Yes, it is very dangerous.
because the inmates, the hardened criminals, see you as a external body, you know, as something to destroy, something to expel. So this gives credit to this guy. Sadly, and then you told about he went through some mental issues of depression, and this is this adds up because I think this guy was 16 when he went.
Got out 19. So.
And he went through his formative years in a fucked up situation, and when he went out, he was completely. I can feel him because if he felt like society put him inside a. Yes. Maybe he was told by his parents, his teacher, when he was a kid, you have to behave, you have to be a good citizen. And then when he tried to hold on to his rights and to his dignity, he got beat up. He didn't get what he deserved, and this is very sad, very very sad.
And the only reason I brought it up was because that's an example of how a system can get out of hand. That's supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be there for making society better.
There is a saying in Italy. Would you prefer to have one innocent people in jail or 10 criminals out of jail?
I would rather have 10 criminals out of jail, but
really,
yeah. That's a tough one. That's a tough one for me because it's all about. It's tough.
When you do put a criminal,
I think we can have maybe we can have both. I think maybe we can have both. You know.
Well, yeah. When you do put a criminal in jail, just make sure it's a long, long time. When you really prove it, when it's actually proven, you know. No lenient sentences.
I don't know if what I was trying to say is this.
Nothing's perfect. I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Okay, nothing is perfect, but given that no system can be perfect, would you prefer a system that goes to the extreme of jailing innocent people as far as it keeps in jail all the criminals, or on the other hand, a system that for not punishing unjustly innocent people keeps...
yeah, I think I know how to answer this question now.
Yes.
I think so.
Go ahead.
Maybe. We'll see.
Go ahead.
So, I think that, like, part of the reason why I had a problem with it to begin with was I was looking at, like, the way prisons are set up right now. And if we change possibly what happens to people in prison, because this goes back to something you said earlier, and I think maybe this might be the bigger point you've been trying to make actually all night, is about freedom, right? Like, so do prisoners actually have to interact with each other to serve their prison time? Because like that to me adds a whole nother level of just danger and just shit that they have to deal with, where it's bad enough that they're going to be in there locked away from their friends and their family. So wouldn't it be easier for them to serve their time and to think about what their life has been, if not that they were like in solitary confinement with no human interaction, and they were in like a tiny like little box and they couldn't, you know, breathe in it. And I'm not saying like let's make them like overly comfortable, but
well, how does this address whether or not we should let more people?
Well, because then an innocent person that's locked up they're not the only hell they're going through is the fact that they're separated from their friends and family. They don't have to worry about being attacked and assaulted.
So you're saying it would be okay to have innocent people in prison as long as we treat everyone in prison nice?
No, I'm saying that like the way the judicial system, like if anybody can present me a judicial system that is going to produce almost 100% convictions for criminals and 0 for innocent people, then I would be like, all right, well, let's just use that system. And, you know, we would have a totally different discussion. But kind of the way it's set up with the judge and the jury, you know,
what
the
should
evidence, you know?
what should we aim for? I think his question is, should we aim for a system where there are a few innocent people in there and a lot of criminals? Or
like the military say, there are collateral damage, you know.
yeah, how much collateral
Yeah.
damage do we allow? How much do we accept?
Because, like, because, like, okay, so I can understand if society wanted to lock me away because they felt I was dangerous. You know, they found me dangerous because I'm not the best judge of that. It's like, I mean, I could be, you know, I'm like, I'm not gonna hurt anybody, but I'm like, secretly, I'm like, oh, fucking horrible murderer, you know, why would I admit that? So, yeah, I get what you're saying with that entirely, because
Yeah.
we gotta have, like, if we didn't want prisons or need prisons, we would have outphased them a long time ago. But
Yeah, Massimo, my answer would be, I'll see if I can answer it directly. My answer would be that you've got to put people in prison for a long time if you can prove they've done the crime, but you have to have pretty high bars of standard. So once you've crossed that bar of standard of proof, you lock them away like fucking hell. And if you do that, I think that's the real answer. And once in a while, people who are really guilty will fall through the cracks and be free, and hopefully they'll straighten their life out and think that was a close call, and they'll be good people from then on.
Okay.
are y'all familiar with the Iceman from Manhattan?
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah. He
I
was
don't
like
know. I don't know about this.
Oh, so well, you probably can explain it better than who he was, Mr. Crawford. But I'll take my thought after that if you want.
Yeah, he was a hired killer and hitman, and sometimes he just killed because he wanted to. He shot people in the face for the fun of it and stuff, just because. And eventually he got caught and went to prison for life.
Yeah.
So he was a gun for hire.
Yeah. Yep. He started working for the mob, the Gambino family, up in New York,
But
New Jersey.
He was also a sadistic son of a bitch because he...
Oh yeah, because that's what eventually he just started his own business because he realized, working for the mob, he was either going to get whacked or in jail. So he started his own business, which basically, outsourced contract work, hit jobs from the mob and things like that. And then he just started setting people up and robbing them. Like, he figured, okay, well, there's one particular instance, this guy, was a pharmacist and he owned a drugstore and he had like $40,000 saved away and he wanted to buy this drug. It was like a diabetic drug or something like that. And he wanted to buy this new over-the-counter drug that had just come out, but there was a law that you could only buy so much of it because they wanted to make sure it got to all these other different hospitals. Well, he told the guy, well, I got the stuff, so you can come buy it from me in this back alley. Or it wasn't a back alley, it was a garage actually, like a parking garage. And the guy went there and met him, and he's like, all right, he just gave him the money. He's like, all right, here's the $40,000. He's like, where's the stuff at? And he's like, there's no stuff. And he shot him, and the gun actually the bullet went through his throat, and he was bleeding all over the place and dying. So he had to go into his trunk, get a tire iron, and beat the dude to death in the head. But he did a lot of shit like that. Yeah, he did a lot of shit like that. And anyways, they locked him up, gave him life. And then they went and interviewed him, and the interviewer is going to do all those things. We're like, oh, are you sorry about what you did, and yada yada yada. And he gave some really insightful answers into like who he was as a person. And he was like, yeah, he was abused and beaten by his parents growing up. So he became a bully and he started abusing people. And the first time he murdered somebody was actually by accident. He got into a fight with somebody at a bar, at a pool hall. And he beat the dude to death with a pool cue, and he didn't get charged with the crime because back then that was not necessarily a thing that a judge would, it was just like, oh, it was an unfortunate accident, Yeah, no, I'm serious because this was like the 70s, like maybe
you kill a man with a stick, and shit happens.
America
like
is a fucking wild place, dude. Like every 40 years, America is like a totally different fucking country. like it's weird. It's weird here. But So, you know, he had a family, and that like when it finally come down to it, he was like, I fucking do regret doing what the fuck I did because I fucking destroyed my wife's life. I destroyed my kids' lives. Like even though I know my kids are still alive, they're not hurt. Who knows what the fuck is gonna happen to them because of what I did? You know, there's people out there that I killed that they might want revenge on my, you know, just they can't get it on me, so they're gonna get it on my family. Like he was self-aware of that fact, and the fact that he was in prison and he couldn't protect them, I think, was another thing that kind of goes along with that. Because because he looked at it, he's like, I could have made any other decision I wanted to, and I made the decision to kill people for money. And I think that like these mobsters and these people, they're not impossible to find redemption, but it's going to take a whole hell of a lot of personal fucking pain and struggle for them to get to that point. And I'm not sure if we can inflict that on them forcefully, other than just locking them away from society and giving them time to actually think. So, like I said, I think innocent people are going to end up in jail because of just the way we have the system set up with juries and judges.
Well,
I mean, if we could ever get to the point where computers could determine whether people did crimes, that would be awesome.
I would accept that. I would say if we push it all the way through a jury and the jury puts him in jail, I'm going to accept that.
I know the jurors are going to live with it,
Yeah. I mean, as a legal system, I'll put all the checks and balances I can, but if 12 honest men think you did it, I'm not going to complain about what those 12 honest men thought. That's how I feel.
Yeah, because for murder cases, it's a little bit different for the jury selection. There are a lot more. Both lawyers are generally a lot more particular for the jury selection when it comes to murders.
Are you guys familiar with the play? It was a screenplay or maybe a movie which is called 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men.
Classic.
Oh.
Classic. Love it.
Haven't seen it, but I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it.
It's absolutely
right
excellent.
I think it was with Henry Fonda.
Yeah, and the guy who was Piglet's voice on Winnie the Pooh. He was
Shut
also.
the fuck up. Are you serious?
Yeah, it was good shit. It was very.
That was my favorite character, dude. You deal with some of the Winnie the Pooh generation here, so.
Yeah, no, that was a court drama. That was one of the few court dramas I could stand. It's not really a court drama. It's all in the deliberation room.
I watched the fuck out some Perry Mason back in the day.
It plays in real time, 2 hours inside the jury room.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
None of it in the courtroom. Nothing in front of the judge or anything. No evidence or anything. It's just the discussion among the jurors. So. And
there is even with some racist issues inside the discussion because if I remember correctly, they have to decide about a kid who allegedly committed a homicide, but he was a Puerto Rican, I think, in the story. So, and some of these old guys think there is a racial component to the deed, the crime he allegedly committed, and there is a discussion about this because instead one of the jurors says to the other, but if you think this about him, you should think this about me also because I am a son of immigrants,
Oh,
so it's very fine play. You should see it, but I don't know if Brandon was thinking about the recent remake or the original one.
The original, yeah.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Black and white movie, yes, because they remade it maybe in 2000.
Yeah, I'll bet it's garbage. Is it garbage? Have you seen the new one? I'll bet it's garbage.
I watched it because I was curious. It was, of course, much worse than the original. but there
So it
were
had the
a
same
couple.
name, but none of the same spirit.
Yeah, it was the same story, you know, but
Oh wow.
and uh, but the style is very different. The original one was claustrophobic, you know. Uh, the black and white picture gives a very tense image to the whole picture.
I bet it
Uh,
does actually.
I am a fan of black and white movies, in fact, because it is an art of in of itself to shoot a film in black and white.
You know, I thought if I ever got a chance to direct a movie, I'd love to do it in black and white.
Well, nowadays it sounds like pretentious to do black and white. At the time of the original movie, it was a matter of budget, you know, because black and white film processing was much cheaper.
Hmm. I
But
notice in black
some
and white, I tend to pay more attention to
to the
everything that's
story,
going on. Well, yeah,
yes.
yeah, and everything else that's going on, like even the room itself, I pay more attention to. You know, if it's in color, I pay attention to what's colorful on the screen, but I might lose other details.
But in the color, the remake, there were a couple of very fine actors I like very much. You know, George C. Scott
Oh, snap! Okay.
was one of the people inside. I liked George C. Scott a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right there with you.
He was the General Patton in the film about the General Patton. You know.
Oh,
Yeah, I
he's
forgot
good.
that came
I
out.
like
Yep.
him. Yeah. Huh.
That, by the way, is one of my favorite movies, Patton.
Yeah, I like that. It's pretty good. It's quite good. It is quite good. It's one of the better war films, and the newer war films are getting less and less good. And that was one of the sort of epic patriotic.
I am kind of a freak about classic Hollywood movies, you know, from the 1930s up to the 70s.
Like the Maltese Falcon.
Like that, or you know,
Bogart and Hepburn. Huh?
yes, yes, but up to the 70s, in fact,
Citizen Kane.
like Citizen Kane. I like that
Jack
style. Jack Nicholson, of course, you see from my picture.
Yeah.
Someone Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of my
Oh,
favorites.
oh man, I hadn't seen that movie in like over 10 years, but that movie changed my life. That movie fucked me up when I saw that movie.
I went through a very bad period after seeing that, watching that movie, because it was one of the saddest pictures I ever watched.
I know, like,
Very deep.
God damn, what the fuck they gotta do to some? Oh man, because they did that shit to people back then. They did that shit, fucking people. Oh fuck.
It takes us back to the freedom issue, you know. If you lock up some people only because they are, you know, different, and you take away their freedom to think what they think, is one of the worst thing you can do to a man, you know. Take away.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It really fucking is, because like there's a saying like which is worse, boredom or death, and that's essentially what you do when you lock someone away. Is you're assigning them to perpetual boredom.
But I think one man should prepare himself to long period of boredom.
You know, that's maybe it's just because I'm the color of my skin, but you know, I've gotten so fucking used to the idea of just being locked up for no fucking reason that like even if it happened, I'm not even sure it would fuck me up too much mentally, because I'm just like, well, I always knew I was gonna fucking be here anyways. So now that I'm here, let me just soak up the environment and see how I can make the best of it.
That's brutal. The thoughts
Yeah.
crossed my mind, though.
Oh, see, I knew you were a brother. I knew you were a brother.
Yeah.
Like, these brothers have telltale signs. Like,
I thought if 5% of Americans are locked up, then I'm probably going to end up taking my turn because I'm not a millionaire. So
Isn't that so fucked up? Because I got a friend of mine, Jarima Karama. He's got a YouTube page, and he doesn't do Google Hangouts. I need to convince him to start doing Google Hangouts because he takes conversation. He was locked up for 16 fucking years for drug offense and or drug trafficking, and he was sentenced to 19 years, and he got because for good behavior and all that shit, he got out 3 years early. But he's got a YouTube channel. And he talks about he's got a series he does on there called Behind the Wall, where he talks about different experiences in prison. And yeah, that was what he said at the end of the day was the only thing. Like he's like, like understand something about this prison culture is that like there's nothing that's technically stopping you from ending up in the exact same situation that I got in. Like being on the inside, he saw that there's a whole business making aspect to prisons here in America that is absolutely disgusting.
yeah, it's an industry. It's an industry, and they get money to put to warehouse people, and the government pays the check, so they just warehouse them. And
Yes, I think the business aspect of the thing is something that I keep forgetting, but is important.
yeah, it's the only aspect a lot of people on the inside of it see. It's the lawyers who put people away. It's the only thing they see. It's just an industry. It's just you're just another number, and either you have the money to get off or you don't. So yeah, it's brutal like that. Well, listen, guys, I've got to get to bed because it's nearing sun up here. Well, the sun's already up, so.
I'm about to say I just looked out my fucking window, dude, and I got a lot of fucking yard work to do today.
Yeah, I gotta get busy and get my life together. Massimo, thanks for showing up. You're in Italy.
Okay,
It's
let's
what?
wrap it up. It's almost noon here.
Oh, so you got a nice productive day ahead of you. Fuck you.
I'm about to say before we roll out, I'll say Massimo, if you want to take some contact information down and if you want to ask me some more questions or something like that, you can do that, or we can just wait till the next time. I'm gonna be looking for.
Let me just stop the broadcast and you guys can go ahead.